Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Inherited a Power Lost in Time? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. First chapter. All men are not created equal. To Izuku Midoriya, that was the harsh reality, being diagnosed as quirkless at the young age of 4 and instantly becoming the target for everyone that was blessed with one. And now here he was, 6 years old and running from his attackers. Why was he being attacked? Easy, he again put himself between another kid and his bullies, successfully saving the poor kid but unsuccessfully trying to calm the bullies. Come back here, Deku, an ashen blonde shouted while popping small explosions from his hands. I can see him, Bakugo, he won't escape, another kid with long fingers shouted. Need to hide, need to hide. Izuku's mind was running at 100 miles per hour. Why do I keep putting myself in these situations? He couldn't help it really, but every time he saw those kinds of situations his body just moved. He was sure that he was going to get lost. He has never been that deep in the forest, but at the same time, he knew that if he slowed down even a little, the other kids will catch him and hurt him again. He still didn't understand why his childhood friends simply started hating him. He didn't do anything, for God's sake. He was so involved in his thoughts that he almost crashed against the side of a small mountain. His eyes widened, he could hear them getting close. He looked around and started running to his right. Izuku was sure that he won't escape another beating. His eyes were starting to water when he found a miracle. There is a small cave there. An entrance to the mountain. Without thinking, he crouched and dove into the cave, regretting it 2 seconds later when he was suddenly sliding deep into the mountain. He screamed all the way down and dropped with a big OMP. Note for future escaping, don't dive into caves that I don't know, Izuku said, groaning while rubbing his butt. His eyes widened, realizing the predicament he was into. I'm lost in a cave that goes inside of a mountain, muttered Izuku with his eyes watering. He started walking through the cave that was lighted by a makeshift torch he made. Thanks, Mom, for those camping classes, even if they meant getting more bullied, he thought. After a few minutes, there was another thought on his mind. There should be an exit. An hour later, he was crouched down on the floor, openly crying now. I want to see my mommy again. I want to go home. I want to watch more videos of All Might. Tears rolled from his eyes, his small mind finally feeling the weight of his situation. In his mind, everything that took him to that point was flashing, his situation being quirkless, his love for heroes, his traitorous body that moved on his own, and finally Katsuki Bakugo. Why does he bully me? I don't bother him, I'm just trying to be a hero, his mind thinking seriously for the first time about that situation. He's not my friend, for some reason he hates me, even if I just try to live my life. He targets me for no reason, he cried softly. Minutes passed quickly and the poor child finally runs out of tears. I just want to go home. I don't want to make Mom sad. I just want to be a hero. Those words steeled his resolve. I can't stay here crying if I'm going to be a hero. I have to stop crying and keep moving. There must be an exit to this place. He started walking again, renewed vigor on his steps. But when he walked for another hour, that new resolve started to fade again. After all, he was just a small child. Suddenly heavens must have decided that he earned a break, because out of nowhere torches started lit up on a corridor to his right. What? He stuttered. Wait, if there is fire here, maybe someone is on the end of this corridor. Maybe I could get help. Or maybe this is a villain hideout. His initial happiness was suddenly replaced for fear. Steeling his nerves, he decided to follow the corridor slowly and quiet in case he needs to turn back and run to hide in the darkness. He walked slowly through the corridor, using all his senses in case he needed to retreat and hide, but the more he walked in, the more he noticed that the corridor seemed unused for a long time, even if the torches lit up suddenly. Finally, after a while walking, he reached what seemed to be a big room that had a lot of other tunnel entrances or exits. Looking around in every tunnel, trying to decide what his next step should be, his eyes widened at his discovery. A room! Izuku shouted in happiness. Inside that tunnel was a literal room. In the middle was a table with chairs. Around the cave were bookshelves full of old books and scrolls. On the far end of the room was a desk with a smaller torch on one of its corners. What made Izuku really happy was that on the table in the middle of the room was a map. A map, yes. Getting close to the map, his eyes widened. It seemed that the big room with all the entrances was in the middle of the mountain, and every tunnel had an exit in different parts of the mountain. So if I take this tunnel, I'll find an exit that is around 25 minutes away from home. Izuku took the map and started running to the exit, but something inside his head made him stop and turn to look at the books and scrolls on the shelves. I just want to know what this place is. A little investigation won't hurt anyone. And that he did. He looked through the scrolls on the desk for a while when something caught his attention. Ninjas? If he understood right, apparently he was on a hidden military base for ninjas, and this base belonged to a village called Konoha, the leaf-hidden village on the land of fire. He kept reading through what seemed war records. Apparently ninja nations were having a large-scale war against each other. A war between ninjas, Izuku said with stars on his eyes. He kept looking through documents, not understanding a lot of things, but a name kept popping out in almost every scroll he read, Namake's Minato. All these scrolls are directed to him. Maybe he was a general or something. His eyes moved from the desk to the bookshelves. He knew he would be in trouble if he doesn't go home right now, but something in his gut told him to check for more information. He stood in front of a bookshelf reading the titles of the books. When one caught his eye, it reads, Book to Understand Chakra Better and Perform Better Ninjutsu Volume Number 1 of 14. He chuckled at the large and weird name. Opening the book, his eyes widened again. Written by Namake's Minato, he whispered. He found a handwritten book made by a man who was really important in the war. Izuku started reading the book and felt something he hasn't felt in a long time. It seemed that this chakra the book was talking about was something every human had. And if one is capable to manifest it and mold it, it could be used to perform amazing techniques. He read for a while. His already fast and analytic mind was in overdrive, trying to understand everything he read. It seemed that chakra was made by two energies, physical energy and spiritual energy, being molded together, and it circulates through the body using the chakra pathway system. The more Izuku read, the more his hopes started to go through the roof. If I'm able to control this energy, chakra, maybe I could use it to become a hero. He was about to sit down on the floor when something fell out of his pocket, the map. Oh my god, I need to get out of here. Mom is going to be really mad. I can come back later with this map. He got up and after 3 seconds of thinking took the first and second book of the Books to Understand Chakra Better and Perform Better Ninjutsu series and made his way home. Using the map to guide himself out of the mountain was really easy. He lit up his torch again and started fast walking to the exit closer to his house. He reached the end of the tunnel after an hour of walking and started to panic again. It was a dead end. Okay, do not panic, Izuku think. These guys were ninjas, of course. There must be a secret button or something to open the door. He used his torch to look around, getting close to the door when he felt his foot press something on the floor and suddenly a big rock moved aside. Of course, a hidden button on the floor. When he walked outside the mountain, his panic raised again. Oh god, is night already? Mom is going to be so mad. He couldn't help but whimper and was about to start running to his house when he looked back and saw the entrance to the cave wide open. I need to close the door again. I don't want anyone knowing about my secret. He felt guilty keeping this kind of information secret, but maybe this was his only shot to be a hero, so he started looking around for a way to close the entrance. After a few minutes, he found a small button no bigger than a small pebble with a weird symbol that looked like a leaf on the floor under a root of big 3. He pressed the button and the entrance closed again. Smiling to himself, he took off to his house, already planning what to say to his mom and how to start training this energy called chakra. And that was his first step to becoming the hero known as the symbol of hope. The Green Flash. Chapter 2. Izuku ran as fast as his small legs could carry him. He knew he would be in trouble, but nothing could put his excitement down. His shot to be a hero was in his small arms. Maybe with these books his dream could become true. After 25 minutes running, he reached his house. Panting a little, he steeled himself. His mom would be mad without doubt, but he needed to tell her about what he found. Turning the knob of his department, the door slammed open, revealing his mom. She was crying her eyes out, holding a napkin in one hand and the phone on the other one. Izuku! She cried, dropping the phone to hug her son. Where were you? I was worried sick. You're in so much trouble, young man. She cried on his ear. I'm sorry, Mom, I was playing and lost track of time. I promise I'm totally fine. He reassured the best he could. And I have something to tell you, Mom. Before he could explain what he found, both heard a buzzing on the phone. His mom dropped. Were you talking with someone, Mom? Wait a moment, I was talking to the police. His eyes widened at the words of his mom. She picked up the phone and started talking to the officer. Hello, yeah, I'm so sorry, he just arrived. Thank you so much and sorry again. Why were you talking to the police, Mom? I'm late, but I'm just 2 hours late. Is not that much, Izuku questioned. I thought something happened to you. You're never late and I got worried, Izuku. You could get hurt or lost. Izuku hid his flinch as much as he could. That was actually what happened. And you don't have anything to help you. Her eyes widened, and Izuku's head dropped. I don't have a quirk to help me in those situations. I know, Mom, he said sadly. Don't worry, Mom, I just lost track of time while playing. Are you going to give me a punishment or can I go to my room? Inko's eyes started to water. I'm sorry, Aizu. I'm not going to punish you this time, but please don't do it again, she sighed. Dinner is ready, you can eat before you go to your dash. I'm not hungry, Mom. Saying that, Izuku walked to his room, leaving a teary-eyed Inko at the entrance of their home, who didn't notice the 2 books in her son's arms. Closing the door to his room, Izuku put his back on the door. He knew his mom was just worried about him, it's normal after all, but saying that he was in more danger than everyone for not having a quirk hurt him, even if she isn't completely wrong. He took a deep breath, went to his desk, put the books on the table, and slapped his cheeks. He needed to focus. Maybe if he can control what is on the books, his mom would never have to be worried for him again. Stealing his resolve, he opened the book to understand chakra better and perform better ninjutsu, volume number 1 and one of his own notebooks, and started to study. It's been 2 days since the chaotic day on the mountain, discovering the books and his new resolve to become a hero. And Izuku wasn't having a good time. He already read the books and made way more notes than needed, but he couldn't tap on the chakra. Come on, what am I doing wrong? Izuku muttered. Okay, I think I have enough stamina for my age. After all, running from the other kids really gave me a lot of it. I think that's something I have to thank Bakugo for. That was another thing he was working on, finally stopping calling Bakugo his old nickname for him. And no matter how much I meditate, I can't seem to tap on the spiritual energy. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe everyone is right and I'm only a Deku. His resolve was breaking. After all, he was just a small bullied child, and almost everyone he knew said that he was worthless and that he couldn't become a hero. Izuku dropped to the floor of his room. He was giving up. No matter how he tried, he was getting frustrated. Nothing was working. He let himself lean completely on the floor, and now he was looking at his ceiling, a single poster of All Might with the quote, "You can do it, I believe in you." In his child's mind, it was like his favorite hero was talking to him, like saying, "Don't give up, kid." And that again steeled his resolve. Izuku took a deep breath and sit up again. He will try again, over and over again. He would not give up when something literally appeared in front of him and gave him hope. Okay, let's try again, Izuku told himself, repeating on his head all the steps to enter in a meditative state. He researched on the internet. Taking a deep breath, he started to clear his mind. After a while, Izuku's mind entered a deep meditative state and he could picture himself floating in a white ocean of nothingness, and started again to reach for the energies he needed to activate his chakra. He almost instantly tapped the physical energy, already getting accustomed to the feeling of that energy. In his mind, the energy turned into a green sphere and he took it in his hand. Now he started to look inside himself for the spiritual one. Normally, after a few minutes of searching, he would give up or simply lose focus. But this time he was completely determined to find it. His resolve must have something to do, because suddenly he felt something new, another type of energy that he hasn't felt before. Trying to not lose focus or get too excited, he started reaching for that new feeling. At first hand, he could tell that it was really different from the physical energy. The physical energy was wild and energetic. This felt warm was the only way his mind could describe it, like something he craved for. Finally, he saw it, a big red energy on a part of his mind. That must be it. He couldn't help but grin. His dreams will become a reality. He extended his arm only for it to not reach the energy, and unlike the physical energy, it wouldn't go to his hand. Come on, come here, he shouted in his mind. Just a little bit more. I'm so close. He could feel himself lose focus. No, I can't lose focus now that I'm so close. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to prove everyone that doubted me wrong. I'll become a hero that saves everyone with a smile and nothing will stop me. Every doubt, every thought that weighed him down was vanishing from his mind. Finally, his soul was soaring with true happiness and hope. Yeah, I'll become that, a symbol of hope for everyone. Suddenly his hand touched the warm energy and turned into a sphere of red light on his hand. He looked at it smiling. And no one will stop me, he whispered to himself, using his hands to merge both spheres of energy to become what he needed to make that dream come true. Izuku gasped, and suddenly he was again in his room out of his meditative state. What happened? He said, looking around. His eyes widened when he focused again. I did it, he whispered. But did he? He shook his head. No more doubts, he thought, standing up. He focused and suppressed a scream when he felt it. He felt the chakra running through his body. Focusing again, he tapped his new energy, his chakra, and focused it on his hand only to squeal a bit when he saw the blue energy surrounding it. Finally, he let the tears fall from his eyes. He made it. After all this time, he really made it. I need to train my chakra. He giggled a little after thinking that, I need to master it and train more than everyone, and I need to get the next 12 volumes of Minato's books. His mind halted a bit. Namake's Minato, I don't know who you were or what happened to you, but thanks for helping me to achieve my dreams. I know I still have a long way to go, but thanks to you and your books I know I can do it. Thank you so much. Sensei, whispered Izuku with a little smile. Far away in a mountain lost to the man, someone felt a spike of chakra suddenly appear. It's been centuries since someone awakened its chakra. When the hidden villages fell and the new era started, the ninjas slowly disappeared from the earth, and the final nail of the era of the ninjas was when the quirk started to manifest on the world. So a new shinobi has born. This will be really interesting, croaked a small figure. Chapter 3. The next week was crazy for Izuku. He stood most of his time in his room practicing with his chakra. Thankfully, volume number 2 of Minato Sensei books had a few techniques to start to practice molding his chakra. He fell to the floor again for the 50th time after trying to walk on the wall of his room. When he learned that ninjas could do that and that it was a great way to practice, he decided that he would master that first. And as everything related to chakra, it was more difficult to do than it is read on paper. He groaned and panted lightly and understood that he needed to take a little break to recover his chakra. He didn't want to repeat what happened the day after he could project his chakra. He shuddered at the memory. I need more physical training to make my chakra reserves bigger. Maybe I could run a bit and make some calisthenics, he muttered to himself. I need to go to the cave again, but that will take time and I don't think my mom will be happy with me if I take a lot of time. He really wanted to share his secret with his mom, but to do that he needed to show her what he could do. That was the main reason to try so hard to walk on the walls. He needed to prove to his mom that he had what is needed to become a hero, and that level of chakra control was only the first steps. He kept lying down for half an hour before trying again. He understood that he needed to keep the flow of chakra steady, but at the same time he was scared to make a hole on the wall if he put a lot of chakra on his feet, so he was trying to put the exact amount of chakra little by little, even if that meant fall to the floor over and over again. Okay, last time I felt my foot grab to the wall, so I think I'm getting close to the right amount of chakra needed. He focused the chakra on his feet again, putting a little more this time, and put his right foot on the wall, grinning wildly when he felt it secure on the wall. Now the next foot, Izuku thought with a little worry. He closed his eyes and jumped a little to put his left foot on the wall. He waited for the pain on his back, but it never came. Slowly he opened his eyes and saw the ceiling. Slowly but surely he took another step and then another, and suddenly he was walking on the ceiling. I did it! He shouted with happiness, only to hear a loud noise outside, and a few seconds later his mom opened the door and looked at him with wide eyes. Izuku, she stuttered. Hey mom, I need to talk to you about something, Izuku said, still on the ceiling with a wide, toothy grin. Inko Midoriya was concerned for her son. After that night he came back late. She hardly sees him out of his room. He just comes out to eat and take baths. She understood that maybe he was a little mad at her after what she said when he came back. But who could blame her? She was a single mother of a precious bundle of joy that unfortunately didn't have any power to help him get by in this cruel world. Still, she felt bad for what she said a couple of years back. Even if she promised herself that she'll help Izuku in everything he'll do, she couldn't stop from being worried about his lack of quirk. She was washing the dishes when she heard a scream coming from Izuku's room. "I did it." She dropped the dish in her hand and ran to see what happened to her son. When she opened the door, her eyes widened at the scene. Her son, her beautiful bundle of joy, was standing on the ceiling of his room with a wide grin on his face. "Izuku," was the only thing her mind could say. "Hey Mom, I need to talk to you about something," her son said, still grinning widely. Her mind rebooted and instantly she got worried. "Izuku, how are you doing that?" "Get down on this moment." She saw Izuku nod and he slowly walked to the wall and over the wall until he was on the floor. "Izuku, are you okay? How did you do that?" she said while crouching to hug him. "It's something I've been training for, Mom. I'm using my chakra to keep me on the wall. I have to keep a steady flow or otherwise I would fall. That's why I walked slowly. This is the first time I managed to do it. Izuku kept muttering, so she needed to make him focus again. "Wait, Izuku, what are you talking about? Chakra, what is that?" She was getting worried. Is chakra something dangerous or illegal? Her son smiled and walked her to his desk. Opening a drawer, he took out 2 books and started telling her a story about how he fell inside a mountain, walked through tunnels, found a room that belonged to ninjas, and how they performed a lot of techniques using inner energy called chakra. Her mind was a mess. She simply couldn't believe what her son was saying. It sounded like a story made by a child with an extremely powerful imagination, something that her son was. But at the same time, she saw Izuku walking on the wall and ceiling. "Izuku, why you didn't tell me earlier about all of this?" She saw her son lose his smile for the first time. "Because I wanted to show you that I can do it, Mom. That I could become a hero, even without a quirk. And maybe if I show you what I can do, and how much I could do in the future, you would not be scared for me because I can't save myself." That broke her heart. And again, all the guilt she was carrying came in full force, hurting her heart. Her poor child was still suffering from her words from 4 years ago, and her slip of his lack of quirk a week ago seemed to put more weight on him. "Izuku, I want to believe you, but you have to understand all of this is incredible. Even if you already showed me that ability to walk on walls, maybe this is your quirk. And you're just a late bloomer, and all that you went through, getting loose on the mountain and everything triggered it." She stopped her rambling when Izuku touched her hand. "I don't have a quirk, Mom. I accepted that." He suddenly was surrounded by blue energy and Inko's eyes widened again. "This is something different. Something that comes from the combination of energy inside me, Mom." The blue energy disappeared. "I want you to trust me, Mom. Please, I know I can be a hero." That phrase took Inko by surprise. It was the same phrase from 4 years ago, but now it wasn't a question. She heard it, the certainty of his words. This time he wasn't asking for her to reassure him he could do it. He was asking for support to achieve his dream. "Izuku, I believe you, and I'm sorry for what I said before." She knelt in front of Izuku, putting her hands on his small shoulders. "Izuku, you can become a hero. No, scratch that. You'll become the best hero." She let her tears fall to the ground when her son hugged her tightly, whispering thanks. She melted in the hug when suddenly Izuku broke it and looked at her sheepishly. "Now that we're talking about it, could you accompany me to the cave? I need to get all the volumes from Minato-sensei," her son said while scratching the back of his head. Walking through the forest with his mom was going more slowly than he thought, but nothing could affect the happiness he was feeling at the moment. His mom finally believes in him, and she is on board to help him in his dream. "How much far we're going to go into the forest, sweetie?" The poor Inko was already getting tired. "I don't have the condition I used to," he heard his mother mutter lowly. "We're almost there, Mom. Maybe 50 meters more and we'll reach the base of the mountain," Izuku said while he scanned the map on his hands. "Actually, Mom, there is another 5 entrances to the mountain. I fell on the one that is close to the park behind dash." Izuku didn't complete what he was saying. Thinking about Bakugo still was something that hurt his heart a bit. Thinking about how something like not having a quirk destroyed their friendship. "Maybe we weren't as friends as I thought." "Behind what, sweetie?" Inko asked with a raised eyebrow. "Nothing, Mom. Look, we're here." He saw his mom looking weirdly at him. He ignored it and went to find the button under the root of the 3. "Look at the wall, Mom, this is amazing." He pushed the button and the wall suddenly opened with a hiss. Izuku, is this normal?" He saw his mom with big wide eyes looking inside the dark cave. "Yes, Mom, this is the entrance. Now we just need to walk another 25 minutes at most to reach the main room." Izuku said happily and entered the cave, not noticing the tired sigh of his mom. Once inside, he lit the flashlight he brought with him and pushed the floor button to close the door. I don't want anyone to find this, Mom. Is my only shot at being a hero and I need to maintain it as a secret, he muttered, a little ashamed at being selfish. I understand, Aizu, and I'm really happy that you trust me with this. He smiled at his mother and started walking again. Aizu, you wouldn't even tell Katsuki about this? He almost tripped when his mother said that. He said, thinking about what to say to his mom. Why would you want to keep this secret from your friend, honey? She asked again. Izuku bit his lower lip, not knowing what to say. He turned to his mom and looked at the worried gaze his mother was sending him and decided to take another level to their trust. Bakugo is not my friend anymore, Mom. His eyes glistened with tears, since he knew I didn't have a quirk. He stopped being my friend, and after a while, he started attacking me, his mom gasped. I don't do anything to him, Mom. He is just mean to me because he can. The tears were falling from his eyes now, and the teachers don't do anything, Mom, they just let him be. Oh, Aizu. His mom was crying too. She dropped to her knees and hugged him really hard. I'm sorry, Izuku, I've seen some weird attitudes and how sometimes you came home more rouged than normal, but I thought that you were just playing more rudely. He felt her shake while hugging him. She was really sad. It's okay, Mom. I'm alright. He tried to reassure her when she broke the hug and looked intensely at his eyes. Does Katsuki have ever used his quirk on you? He knew it was really serious hearing the tone his mother was using. Yes, he whispered and lifted his shirt to show her the small burn mark on his back. Normally he doesn't, but when I interfere to stop him from hurting other kid, he gets really mad. Oh, Aizu, don't worry, I'll talk to Mitsuki. This would not continue happening, I promise. He could see the conviction in his mother's tone. Don't make him get in trouble, Mom, Izuku whispered. I don't want to get him in trouble, Aizu, but he needs to understand that what he is doing is wrong. He is not only hurting you but the other kids too. And I'm going to have a long talk with your teachers. They should not allow that kind of attitude in a kid, for God's sake. I wanted to talk about that, Mom. I know I'm just finished my 3rd year of elementary school, but I don't want to stay in that school anymore. Inko's eyes widened, and before she could say anything, Izuku continued, I know that's the closest school to home, Mom, but I can wake early or even use a bike. I have some savings. With a little more of time I could maybe save enough to buy one to go to another school, I promise. We'll do it, Aizu. I'll look for another elementary school that is close and has hard politics against bullying. She interrupted him. Even if you now have something that could pass as a quirk, she said, smiling. Izuku couldn't help but hug her as hard as he could. Thank you so much, Mom, he whispered, but I don't want people to know about my abilities just yet. I need to train more and still don't know the limit about what I could possibly achieve with chakra. Okay, Izuku, we'll do it at your own pace. But for now I want you to show me this room you talked about before I go home looking for information for your new school and all the lawsuits I can put on your old school. Izuku couldn't hear the last thing his mom said, but he decided to roll with it. After their talk, they kept walking, both with more energy on their steps, and finally, 20 minutes later, torches lit on the walls, startling the poor woman, but Izuku held her hands to calm her down. She seemed to relax after a few moments. I still don't know how that works, but is amazing, isn't it? His mom just nodded, more relaxed but still startled. They reached the main cave after 5 minutes, and taking her hand, Izuku started to lead his mom to Minato's room. Look, Mom, this is the place I talked to you about. Izuku was excited. He immediately ran to the bookshelves and started to take the rest of Minato's books of chakra, dragging his mom for help. So you're the one that awoken chakra, huh? Some unknown voice croaked. Izuku and his mom dropped the books they had in their hands, looking around for the person who talked to them. Do you heard it too, Mom? Izuku whispered to Inko, who just nodded rapidly. I'm up here, kid. Mother and son heads snapped to look on top of the bookshelves, and to their surprise, it wasn't a person who talked to them, it was a toad, a really old-looking toad. I'm guessing this is your stuff. Sorry about taking it without permission, sir. I was just really intrigued about Dash. A boisterous laugh interrupted him. Don't worry about it, I own nothing that is here, but I can say it was owned by a friend of my people, the toad said while looking at the scrolls. I'm really sorry if my son touched something without permission, sir. He is really curious, but don't worry, we'll leave this place. Izuku, please put the books in their place and let's go. Izuku was about to protest when the old toad talked. Oh no, by all means he can take whatever that is here. As I said before, I own nothing here, ma'am. He chuckled a bit. But maybe I could help you, young boy. Izuku and Inko didn't know what to say about the small toad. Even if animals with quirks existed, they were really rare. And what is he talking about helping Izuku? Ah, maybe if I show you. Please follow me to the main cave, ma'am. Young boy. He jumped off the bookshelf and in another leap got out of the room. What do you think, Izuku? Inko asked worriedly. Izuku bit his lower lip. He had a lot of questions about what the toad was talking about and what he said about Minato's being an old friend of his people. Let's go, Mom. I think he is trustworthy. Both got out of the room slowly and Izuku positioned him and his mom strategically at the start of the tunnel that would take them to the exit they came from, while the old-looking toad was in the middle on the main cave looking at them with a kind smile. I see that you're quite the strategist, ready to take off if something goes wrong. Good, really good. Izuku started sweating at his plan already being discovered. But worry not, young boy, because maybe after my demonstration you'll show more trust towards me. He turned around and clapped his hands. Izuku's eyes widened when he felt the sudden change of energy inside the toad. He's channeling chakra. Before he could say anything, the old toad started making signs with his hands. He's making seals that mean he is going to dash. Earth style, rock wall. The small toad shouted and slammed his palms on the floor, and suddenly in front of it a big wall of rock raised from the floor. That kid is ninjutsu and I'm offering my help to train it. The old toad said with a broad smile. Izuku almost immediately said yes, but his more rational part made him doubt. Why would you help me? I mean, it would help a lot, but what do you win on this? His mother looked at him with a wide but prideful gaze. I can see that you really want to accept, but you're still on guard. Nice. As a good shinobi must be, it said with a nod of its head. To be honest, I don't win anything on this deal, but a lot of time has passed since the last person awoke in their chakra, so I'm really curious about you. You could tell that's something we have in common. I'm also doing this because I believe someone bringing chakra to the new era is something good. A good balance in a world where quirks are the norm. A person with his inner energy that only comes based on hard work, study, and will. In a world where everyone is born with something that already gave them a head start. I don't know, but that in my mind sounds amazing. How do you know that I don't have anything that gave a head start? Izuku asked, intrigued. Chakra in this era is really difficult to obtain. It's been forgotten for a long time. Why would a young boy try so hard to release a forgotten power if not because he doesn't have a power of his own already? Izuku couldn't help but felt warm at the kind smile the toad was sending his way. That must be what a proud grandpa must look like. He turned to his mom that was looking at him with the same kind smile as the old toad. She nodded at him. I accept, Toad-sensei. And my name is Midoriya Izuku, he said, bowing to the toad. You're going to become an amazing shinobi, young Izuku. And my name is Fukusa, but you can call me whatever you want. The toad croaked loudly. Chapter 4. It was supposed to be an easy mission for Aizawa. A simple raid on a good-for-nothing thugs that had been roving around the small district in Mustafu. His intel was pretty straightforward: 2 thoughts and their leader, all with emitter quirks, so in his mind, it was something easy to take down. After reaching the warehouse they were supposed to be in, Aizawa scanned through the window and spotted his 3 objectives, took a deep breath, then jumped through the window, falling on top of the first thug. Then he activated his quirk to shut down the leader's quirk that apparently had some kind of pyrokinesis quirk, and used his scarf to wrap the other thug and then slam him into a wall, knocking him out. 2 down, 1 left. He thought. Suddenly his instincts kicked on and dived to the side, avoiding the boss gunshot. I hate when they have guns. He used his scarf to propel himself to the top of the crates that were on the place. Then he shot his scarf again at the boss, who apparently was kind of athletic because he rolled at the last moment to avoid his capture weapon. The boss took off and ran to the door, now spitting small bursts of fire at Aizawa, who expertly dodged, and continue his barrage of attack. As soon as the boss put a foot outside the warehouse, Aizawa finally caught one of his legs with his scarf and activated his quirk, stopping the fire coming out of the boss' mouth. Then with a mighty pull, the boss' face met the pavement with a loud smack. You really caught me off guard when you pulled the gun, you know. Intel just told me you used knives or your quirks to threaten your victims, Aizawa said, walking towards the fallen thug. I'll have an extensive talk with the police officers that gave me the info. They just told me that 3 good-for-nothing were making a mess in this district. Aizawa was just coming out of the warehouse when suddenly the leader of the gang turned his head to him while smirking. They said we were just 3 good for nothing, huh? Even if his instincts kicked in, he couldn't dodge the powerful punch to the face of the apparent 4th thug. He ended up slamming against a garbage container, barely avoiding fainting. Haha, your intel came a day too soon, you know. Let me introduce you to Brick. The new member of our small group. He turned to the warehouse where his other gang members were still knocked down. You really did a number to my men, hero, but thankfully Brick was outside buying us some drinks when you literally fell upon us. Aizawa was barely conscious, but still, he could see that the new man, Brick, had a mutation quirk. He was made of Brick. I want to say that they don't care about their villain name anymore, but right now I'm in no position to talk about that. Without they noticing, he pressed the send help button he had hidden in his costume. Well, Brick here is going to take really good care of you, and then he'll take the rest of the gang and take them to our other warehouse, right, Brick? The stone man just grunted in confirmation. Great, now I'm going to go to our other warehouse now. Don't take too much time, man, we need to keep the business moving. So you'll leave the dirty work to your lackeys, huh? Aizawa asked, trying to make time for someone to appear. That's one of the benefits of being the leader of the gang. I get to keep my hands away from Hero's blood, he said darkly and took off running, leaving Aizawa with Brick. I suppose that I can't convince you to surrender, right? Brick smiled wickedly and kicked him to the other side of the alley. Aizawa coughed blood. I suppose that's a no. Great, this is how it's going to end at the hands of a Brick man. I would blame the poor information, but is my own fault for not putting enough attention. Brick took him by the neck of his costume, and he just braced himself for the next hit when someone shouted at them. Ichuai. Aizawa sighed in relief. Apparently some hero or policeman was close enough. When he and Brick turned to the end of the alley just to see a teen no more than 14 years old looking at them. Crap. Hey kid, get away from here. He shouted, but the kid didn't move. He just looked at the scene with narrowed eyes. He wouldn't. Aizawa's eyes widened when the boy took from a small bag on his back 2 knives. What is he thinking? Suddenly when the kid took stance, Aizawa knew he was trained with those weapons. Maybe he can throw it and I can use that as a distraction to escape. He saw the teen throw one of his knives in a high arc, and he could tell the trajectory would end behind Brick, who was laughing at the display. Great, he missed. It happened in a blink of an eye, and Aizawa saw it in slow motion. The knife was falling just behind Brick when the kid appeared from nowhere, taking the knife with one hand and aiming his right leg for a roundhouse kick to the face of the thug. Aizawa's mind was in overdrive. How did he? He is going to hurt himself. Brick is made of Brick. To Aizawa's shock, the kid delivered the powerful kick right in the face of the criminal, who went flying against the wall of the building. How powerful was that kick? Hey, are you all right? The kid asked, as if he didn't just kick a thug made of brick against a wall. Even if Aizawa was grateful, he knew he shouldn't applaud what the kid just did. You shouldn't have interfered. You could have put me and yourself in danger, kid. You already looked in danger, sir. I just couldn't turn around as if I didn't see anything. Don't worry, I'll help you to get out of here. The kid was about to help him stand up when Brick lunged at him. Kid, watch out. Aizawa yelled too. Nothing, the kid wasn't there anymore. He felt the ground rumble when Brick fell to the ground after failing to catch the kid. You know, as my friend says, attacking someone from behind isn't manly. Again they turned to the end of the alley where the kid appeared first, and he was reaching for something on the ground, another knife. His high-speed quirk must work in conjunction with those knives. He used one to attack and left the other one behind in case he needed to retreat. Pretty smart, kid. Don't get too cocky, kid. You'll not leave this place alive. The criminal ran against the kid like a wrecking ball, who pulled more weapons from his small bag. Are those shurikens? Without hesitation, he threw both shurikens straight at the face of Brick. That won't work, those will just bounce off him. Suddenly both shurikens clashed against each other and bounced against the joints in the arms of Brick, who screamed in pain. Don't worry, those aren't big enough to cause too much damage. They just immobilized your arms for a bit. When the police take them from you, you'll be fine. If Aizawa could facepalm, he would, but he had one arm over his ribs and the other was probably broken. Did he just apologize to a villain? Don't make fun of me, you stupid child. Brick, who previously stopped from the pain, took off running again, aiming to use his body as a wrecking ball against the child, who just scratched his head and leaped high into the air, letting the brute pass under him. Wait, is he standing on the wall? And yeah, he was. This weird kid was standing on the wall like it was the floor. The kid then ran to Aizawa and dropped in front of him, defending him. Your arms are busted, man. Charging like a bull won't work. You either surrender or get out of here. The kid was trying to negotiate with the enraged man who was preparing himself to charge again. He won't leave us alone, kid. You're fast, you should leave me here and save yourself. You've been lucky all this time. Don't risk getting out of luck. Aizawa was being rational here. The kid already make enough time for him. The reinforcements must be a minute or two top away from his position. He can tank a few hits from the bulking man until help arrives. The kid looked at him with wide worried eyes, then looked at the man that was about to start running at them, then turned to Aizawa again. I can stop him, but I already interfered in a hero's fight. I want to be a hero, you know, but if I do it more without permission I could get in a lot of trouble and lose my chance. Don't worry, I would still stop him, but maybe could you please give me permission to save your life? Aizawa could see it in the eyes of the kid, behind the nervous look he had on his eyes. He would still save him even if it means not getting a chance of being a hero. And he knew that Aizawa was the only one that could keep him from that fate. Are you sure that you can stop him without getting injured? He saw the kid narrow his eyes. Positive, was the only answer he gave. Then stop him, I'll take the fire from your intervention. The kid nodded and started to make weird movements with his hands. In the end of the alley, bricks started charging against them again. The kid put his hands on the floor and shouted. Earth style. Multiple rock walls, out of nowhere walls started to rise from the floor. Aizawa could count at least 5 of them when the last wall appeared just in front of the kid. What the hell the kid just did? Suddenly he heard something going through the walls. Those walls are not going to stop him. Kid, move, he shouted, but the kid didn't move. He just waited. When they heard the 4th crash, he just took a step to the side and the 5th wall exploded in debris. Aizawa was worried. The kid failed. He needed to run. But before he could say anything, the dust cleared and saw Brick on the floor unconscious. I calculated wrong. Maybe his brick was denser than the standard construction bricks. He saw the kid picking the unconscious man with a stick. What are you talking about, kid? He couldn't help but ask. Well, even with his body made of brick, he still has a brain inside the head. With the strength and speed he was running, I thought 4 walls would be enough to stop him. I mean, the 3rd wall would give him a concussion and the 4th wall would have knocked him down. Of course, I was just trying to guess the density of his brick skin. After all, standard bricks aren't that tough. But being a quirk, I supposed he gained density either with training or something like the bones get callous and sturdier. Thankfully I put the 5th wall dash. Okay, you were prepared, I get it. Aizawa isn't impressed easily, but this kid apparently decoded the quirk of a criminal that he saw for maybe 3 minutes and calculated how to counter it. Not mentioning how he saw the weak point in the joints of the man in a matter of seconds. Aizawa turned to the fallen criminal and used his good hand to reach for quirk suppressing HFS, only to see that those were as broke as his arm. Great, kid, help must be on its way, you should leave. He showed him the broken HFS, and as you can see I can't immobilize him, so if he wakes up you would be in danger again. Don't worry about it, I can immobilize him. Before Aizawa could ask anything, the kid started to make those weird hand gestures again, lava style, ash stone ceiling. Suddenly the kid shot some weird mud-looking liquid from his mouth and covered the criminal except for the head and below his elbows. It could be dangerous if I put more pressure on the shurikens. But don't worry. His arms are still immobilized. The kid said, trying to reassure Aizawa. Don't worry, kid, you did good today. I can assure you that I would be dead if you wouldn't interfere, so they won't be so harsh with you. They could hear the sirens of the police getting closer. Normally I would let you go and forget about all of this, but as you can see, he pointed at the half-destroyed walls and the rock-covered criminal. People will ask questions I can't answer, and that would be problematic. Don't worry, I'll vouch for you. Aizawa, for all his rationality, couldn't help but be grateful to the teen. It wasn't a lie that he would be dead if he hadn't interfered. Thank you so much, Eraserhead-san. That make Aizawa raise an eyebrow. How do you know who I am? He asked with narrowed eyes, but the kid didn't seem intimidated at all. Maybe he looked more busted than he thought. It's because of your goggles. At first glance, I didn't know who you were, but now that I'm close, your yellow goggles grabbed my attention, and after watching your scarf and costume it was easy to deduct. You're not as famous as other heroes, but you have some fans on some forums on the internet, including me. The way you deal with the criminals with your scarf and how useful your quirk is amazing. He pulled a notebook out of nowhere. I think I have your entry in this notebook. After a few seconds the kid turned the book around and bowed his head. Could you give me your autograph, please? Aizawa took the book with his good hand, and for the countless time his eyes widened again. What was written on the notebook was amazing and terrifying. The kid deconstructed his quirk at levels that he didn't know were possible. The terrifying part was all the ways the kid wrote to fight against his quirk and counter it, and the amazing part was all the ways to overcome the weaknesses and ways to use his quirk that he hadn't thought before. "Eraserhead reinforces are here," shouted Mike, who was followed by a troop of cops. "Wait, you took care of everything at the end?" Mike shouted, looking at the defeated villain on the floor. "No, I didn't, Mike. This kid." Aizawa stopped for a second. "Kid, what is your name?" "Ah, Midoriya Izuku, sir, I'm a big fan." "The kid?" Izuku said while bowing at him again. "Yeah, Midoriya saved me and took care of everything." One cop was about to say something when he cut him. "I gave XPLCT permission to the kid to help me. If he didn't show up, you would be picking just one corpse?" "Mine." That seemed to shut the policeman. "Midoriya, you'll need to accompany us to the police station to give your statement. I need to go to the doctor first, then I'll catch you there." He turned to Mike. "Take care of the kid, Mike. He saved my life." Mike saluted. "Don't worry, Shota, nothing will happen to the kid in my guard." Aizawa face-bombed when he heard Izuku squeal, saying, "I know Eraserhead's name." "Midoriya, you'll be fine with Mike. Do you mind if I take this notebook until I reach you at the station? I need something to read while doctors check on me." Of course, but before that," he took the book from Aizawa's hand and presented it to Mike. "Could you please give me your autograph?" Present Mike just laughed and signed the notebook without looking at the content. After returning the notebook, both took off to the police station. While Aizawa was being prepared to go to the hospital, he keeps reading Midoriya's notebook, and he kept getting amazed and terrified. Deciding to worry about it later and close it, only to almost faint when he saw the title of the notebook, Midoriya Izuku's Hero Analysis for the Future, Volume Number 15. "This kid is going to be a lot of problems. I can feel my sleeping hours disappearing. I don't know if I should report Nizu about this or not." That was the only thought of Shota Aizawa for the rest of the journey to the hospital. Chapter 5. Izuku was having really mixed feelings about the situation he was in. On one hand, he was having the time of his life talking with Present Mike. The hero was really kind, explaining some things about his quirk he had questions about. On the other hand, he interfered in a hero fight, and you could say that he illegally used his techniques to stop a criminal. Now here he was in the cafeteria of the police station. "At least I'm not in a cell," about to give his statement about the incident. He was so deep in his mind that he didn't notice Present Mike stopped talking and was giving him a sad look. "I must thank you, little listener. Shota is my best friend, and one thing I know about him is that he doesn't make false claims." Izuku could see the eyes of the hero begin to glisten. "So when he said that you saved his life, I know he said the truth." Izuku's eyes widened when the hero bowed his head. "Please, little listener, accept my deepest gratitude." "Please raise your head, Present Mike-san. You don't have to thank me. I'm just glad that I could be of help." Izuku was blushing wildly. He never take compliments well. "I just hope that this doesn't blow my chance to enter the hero course." "Of course it will not, little listener." Present Mike shouted and raised a fist to the sky. "I swear on my and Eraserhead's name that this will not hinder your chance in becoming a hero. After all, you already have the heart of one if someone asks me." Izuku blushed again, and his eyes got wet. "I like how you're really eloquent with your words, Mike, but I still need to take the statement from." The person who arrived was dressed in an overcoat and hat and was reading a stack of paper. "Midoriya Izuku, right?" "Yes, sir." Izuku stood up straight as a rod, completely nervous about what was about to happen. "Don't be nervous, Midoriya, this will only take a few minutes." He started to read the papers, humming to himself. "So let's start with my name. I'm Detective Naomasa Tsukachi. Okay, first some basic questions. Here says that you are 13 years old, is that right?" "Yes, sir, about to be 14, sir." Naomasa and Mike chuckled at the nervous display of Izuku. "Relax, kid. Okay, we already have the statement from Eraserhead. He said that you appeared out of nowhere when he was beaten down and you threw knives at the criminal?" Izuku was sweating, seeing the raised eyebrow of the detective. "Yes, sir. Those are my kunai and shurikens I use when training my aim, and I plan to use them as a support item when I get into a hero course, sir." Naomasa nodded. "Okay, next question. What were you doing that far from the city? Here says that you live in an apartment building in Mustafu. You were really far from home." Izuku fidgeted a little in his seat. "Well, I was training, running a bit, and I decided to push myself a little more and ended over there." Izuku saw Detective Naomesa's eyes narrow a bit. You know, Midoriya, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but my quirk is called Lie Detector. Izuku's eyes widened. Yeah, so you want to try again with that answer? A few seconds later Izuku blushed. I was trying to catch a small toad, he said, barely audible. He saw the weird look Detective Naomesa was giving him and decided to elaborate. My sensei sometimes sends toads to check on me, but this particular one is a little rascal that likes to spit water on my face, so I was trying to catch him to give him a lesson, but little bugger is really fast. He saw Naomesa's face, still trying to understand what he said when Present Mike talked. Is he saying the truth? Yeah, his story, even if it's weird, it's true, the detective scratched the back of his head. Okay, so you were chasing a small toad, Izuku groaned at the playful tone, when you run into the criminal? Brick? Present Mike chuckled at the name. At what point you decided to intervene? Well, after the little bugger escaped, Izuku growled with a blush on his face. I turned to see Brick kick Eraserhead against a wall, and he was about to attack him again. That's when I decided to intervene. Alright, I must thank you because if what Eraserhead said is true dash. Again Present Mike intervened. It's true, Naomesa, and you know it. Izuku saw Present Mike fist clench. Right? Well, Eraserhead said that he wouldn't be with us if not for your intervention. Naomesa nodded at him. Here said that he gave you XBLCT permission to help him. Izuku nodded. Okay, last two questions. First, the officers said that you and quote begged on your knees that we do not call your mother. My mom is a very nervous woman, sir, and she has an outworldly big tear glands. I just want to avoid getting the police station flooded. Again Naomesa raised an eyebrow at the weird truth Izuku said. Right? Well, we had to call her, but managed to convince her you were completely all right and her presence wasn't needed. Great. I need to buy a new mop on my way home, Izuku whispered with his head down. Naomesa chuckled a bit before asking his final question. Just to finish this, I have a doubt about your quirk. Izuku tried and failed to not sweat in nervousness. Here says that your quirk is energy manipulation, and I fail to understand how you manage to create barriers from the floor or walk on walls as Eraserhead's statement tells. Ah, that's easy to answer. Izuku said too cheerfully, those are parts of my abilities. I can mold my energy in my feet, for example, to grab myself to a wall, and my rock walls are made by the same principle. I use my inner energy, fuse it with the floor and mold those walls. Naomesa and Present Mike had their eyes wide open. Alright, your quirk seems pretty handy. That would be all the statement I need for that case. Izuku sighed in relief. Now, out of the case, I want to talk to you about your weapons. Izuku immediately tensed again. Crap. It says that you have permission to use them as part of your training, he said, looking through the papers on the table. Still, using sharp weapons is really dangerous and shouldn't be allowed to anyone that isn't at least in a hero academy. You could hurt someone. Another voice joined the conversation. With the little demonstration he gave me, I know he is very skilled with those tools, Naomesa. That kind of skills are only achieved with years of practice. The only reason someone is going to end hurt because of those weapons is if he deliberately attacked someone, and it has not happened. Aizawa turned his head at Izuku. How much time have you trained with those tools? Izuku didn't miss the way he referred to his weapons as tools. 7 years approximately, sir. How many incidents you have in his papers in those 5 years, Naomesa? None, but that doesn't mean he won't put people at risk. Aizawa narrowed his eyes and fished something from his pocket. My shurikens. Catch, Midoriya. He tossed them to Izuku that caught them expertly, then walked to the kitchen and took 4 plates. I want you to use your shurikens to destroy these targets. Are you ready? Izuku almost didn't have time to think when Aizawa threw the 4 plates into the air. Izuku saw his targets and threw both shurikens in a wide arc. When the arc closed, 2 plates exploded when the shurikens went through them. The arc closed more and both shurikens clashed against each other and ricocheted to the other targets, blowing them to pieces too. Naomesa and Present Mike have left again with wide eyes and mouth open at the display. As you can see, Naomesa, I barely gave the kid time to think and still he hit the targets. I believe that is enough demonstration to say that he has enough training and won't hurt anyone if he didn't mean to do it. Izuku felt really thankful at the tired-looking hero. Yeah, I can see that. Well then, that would be all then. Naomesa cleared his throat. Again, thank you, Midoriya, for saving Eraserhead, and please don't make habit of it. Izuku bowed his head. Thank you so much, detective, and don't worry, I'll pay for the plates. The detective just chuckled. Don't worry about it, Midoriya, I'll fill a report and take it from Aizawa's payment. The tired hero just grunted at him, and with that, the detective left. That was amazing, little listener. Present Mike suddenly shouted, how did you do it? It was practically an impossible shot. Izuku scratched the back of his neck. A lot of practice, actually my sensei made me train similarly, Izuku said while remembering the old toad. He must be an amazing teacher then, Present Mike said while giving him an okay sign. Yeah, he is the best. Izuku recovered his shurikens and got closer to Eraserhead. Thank you so much to talk on my behalf, Eraserhead-sen, he said while bowing. I said I would take the fire from you, so don't worry about it. Aizawa presented Izuku's notebook to him. These are some amazing notes you have here, Midoriya. You really think so? Izuku said with stars on his eyes. Yeah, actually, do you mind if I make a copy of my entry? It gave me a few ideas. Izuku was practically vibrating with excitement. Oh my god, yes, he blushed at his loud voice. Please, I would be honored. After making copies of Eraserhead and Present Mike entries, both said their goodbyes to Izuku. I know you may be tired of hearing it, Midoriya, but thank you for saving me. Izuku couldn't help but smile widely at him. Are you sure you don't want us to take you home? No, please, you don't have to. He hugged his notebook. You already made so much for me that I wouldn't want to give you more troubles. Eraserhead nodded at him and used one side of his capture scarf to wrap Mike and the other to pull himself over a building. Izuku was smiling widely, looking at the cool exit the hero made, and hugged his notebook again. I can't believe that I had 2 pro heroes' autographs now, he muttered to himself. I can't wait to tell Mom about this. He looked around checking if anyone was close. When he was sure he was alone, he said, Hiration, and disappeared in a green flash from sight. A few buildings away, Eraserhead was using a pair of binoculars to watch Midoriya, only to him to blink out of existence. You really feel like a bunch of problems, he said while smirking. So you're telling me that after fighting a villain, getting interrogated by the police, and getting late home, you didn't expect that your mom would be angry? Kirishima asked. Kirishima Ijiro was one of 2 persons Izuku could call a friend. After changing school, he decided to be alone. After all, his training required a lot of time. So he thought that if he didn't have friends, he will have the time to train with Fukusa-sensei and on his own. But Kirishima had other plans. 2 days in his new school, and apparently Kirishima decided that they would be friends. At first Izuku was reluctant, but pretty soon he understood that having Kirishima in his life was not a choice. So he went with the flow, and now here he was 7 years later with the best friend he could have asked for. If you say it like that, it sounds pretty dumb, Kirishima, Izuku complained. Both were walking through the school preparing to go home after classes. It is pretty dumb, Midoriya bro. What I don't understand is why the cops didn't call your mom. I begged them not to. Imagine the ruckus my mom would do on the police station. The floor on the principal's office is still wet and she was getting good news at the time. He said, waving his arms wildly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure your mom has 2 quirks. I mean, it's physically impossible to cry that much and not dehydrate. Kirishima joked and Izuku chuckled. The best part was that I got 2 new autographs in my notebook. I would have loved to talk more with them, all the stories they could have told me. Izuku's eyes were shining. Only you put having signatures on a notebook over fighting and winning against a villain, Midoriya bro. Kirishima punched his arm jokingly. Now you have an advantage over me. Not only your abilities make you more flashy, now you have more field experience. Kirishima was, apart from his mother, the only one that knew about the truth of his abilities. You'll be an amazing hero, Kirishima. You don't need more flashiness to be one, and one simple fight won't put me ahead of you. Remember, I may try to save everyone, but you will be the wall that protects them from harm. Kirishima grinned happily. In his mind he was grateful to have someone like Izuku by his side, someone that always reminded him what he could become, and above all, you'll protect your beautiful pink princess, right? Now Kirishima regretted ever meeting this mischievous green traitor. Putting Izuku in a headlock, he started to mess with his hair, playfully getting revenge after Izuku's remark, and at the same time trying to hide the bright blush on his face. I don't know what you're talking about. Your imagination is getting really out of control, you little green. He rubbed Izuku's head while he waked his arms wildly. What do my yellow eyes see? A bully. Stop that, Kirishima. A pink blur appeared by their side, scolding Kirishima playfully that ended redder than before. Out of instinct he lifted his arms in surrender. Kirishima, you know how hard it is to control my hair, why would you do that? Izuku turned to greet the new person. Ashido Mina from the other class on his year was the pink princess he was talking about, and the other person Izuku considered a friend. She was the only girl that really approached him with the intention of friendship. Not saying anything about the rest of his classmates, all were really good people, but he never connected with anyone besides these two. Ashido-san, thank you for saving me from the vicious hands of this bully. Izuku really liked the personality of Ashido, someone that stopped the bullies every time she saw one, was someone he was happy to have in his life. No problem Midori, that's the job a hero, she said, putting her hands on her hips doing a hero pose. After all, you're seeing the next #1 hero in the world, Alien Queen. Are you still going for that name? I thought Midori bro made you change your mind, Kirishima said with a much less red face, just a small blush dusting his cheeks. Well, Midori does put up some really good points, but I like the name, and when villains hear my name they'll have so much fear that they'll surrender before my acid. Ashido exclaimed while making weird acid noises. I tried to change her mind, Kirishima, but her head is harder than your quirk. I can only do much. The three friends keep walking to the exit, bantering and laughing between each other when Kirishima looked at the gates of their school and someone caught his attention. Midori bro, could you describe me the hero you helped last night? Izuku looked at him curiously but complied. Well, he had a black costume with a utility belt, he had long hair and tired eyes, but the more distinct equipment he wore were his yellow goggles and his long white scarf. I told you to read the entry on my notebook, Kirishima. I have a sketch of him on it. But why do you ask? Kirishima pointed to the entrance gates of the school and Izuku's eyes widened. What is Eraserhead doing here? Hearing his shout, the hero looked at him and started walking at him. What did you do, Midori bro? Kirishima whispered nervously. What is going on? Ashido asked, not knowing yet what happened last night. The hero heard their voices and approached them. Midoriya, sorry for coming here without calling, but I need you to come with me. I already contacted your mother and she said it's okay for you to come with me. Is Midori being kidnapped with his mom's approval? Ashido's wild imagination was something Izuku tended to just go with the flow with her, but even for him that was too far-fetched. He is a pro-hero, Ashido-san, he won't kidnap me, right? He turned to Aizawa, whose eye was twitching. No, I wouldn't, Midoriya. Now come with me, we have something to discuss with you. He turned around and started walking to a taxi that was waiting for them. Izuku nodded and turned to say goodbye to his friends. It seems that I won't walk with you guys today. See you tomorrow, be careful on your way home. He was about to walk to the taxi when he turned around and got close to Kirishima's ear. Be sure she gets safely to her castle, he whispered to Kirishima, who blushed again and tried to grab Izuku, but he was already running to the exit. That little... Kirishima muttered. What did he say? Ashido asked, tilting her head. Nothing, you have to worry, Ashido. Let's go, I'll take you home. But what did he say? Wait, what were you talking about, him saving a hero? Kirishima smirked. For all her playfulness, Ashido really worried for her friends, and every time they do something stupid she would scold them. I'll tell you while we walk. Let's go. In his mind was just one thought. Revenge, you green traitor. Izuku reached the car and opened the door on the other side from Eraserhead. So where are we going, Eraserhead-san? My boss was really interested in talk with you. We're going to UA. Izuku nodded in understanding. Suddenly something clicked on his mind and his head snapped at Aizawa, looking at him with his eyes wide as plates. We are going to UA? Chapter 6. We're going to UA? Izuku shouted, but why? I mean, I already gave my statement to the police and my mom already gave a piece of her mind. Am I in trouble with UA or something? You're not in trouble, Midoriya. Remember that I asked you for a copy of my profile in your notebook? Izuku nodded and then his eyes widened in worry. I'm not in trouble for that, right? I swear it's just a hobby and all the information I gather is from internet posts, videos and the few fights I get to catch live. As I said, you're not in trouble, Eraserhead sighed. On the contrary, I showed my boss your analysis of me, and he was really impressed and said that he wants to meet you. Izuku visibly relaxed at that. Oh nice, but I don't see what is so impressive of my hero analysis, it's just a hobby. Aizawa looked at him with a questioning gaze. You know I'm not someone that gets easily impressed, but after reading the notes you have on me, I already solicited new support items from them. Izuku's eyes widened and he was practically vibrating in excitement. Wait, are you really using my ideas? Oh, what of my ideas you decided to use? He took his notebook from his backpack. What do you ask for? The glider suit, the inbuilt moisturizing goggles? Maybe the mask to avoid any tear gas or spicy gas that can make your eyes burn from smelling it. Aizawa's own eyes widened at the speed Izuku was talking. This kid doesn't seem to understand the impressive and terrific that his notes are if he is giving me examples of something that could counter my. Wait, did he said inbuilt moisturizing goggles? Aizawa raised his hand to stop Izuku's muttering. What did you say about moisturizing goggles? I didn't about that. Let me show you, is on the end of the notebook. I write there all the support items that come to my mind after I end the notes on someone or I don't have any space to put on their pages. The rest of the track passed with Izuku explaining some of his ideas for support items and Aizawa thinking about not letting Power Loader get close to these notes. The taxi dropped them outside of UA and Izuku couldn't believe his luck. He was in front of his hopefully school to be in a little more than a year. Aizawa motioned to him to follow, and Izuku used all his will strength to not get lost sightseeing around. A few minutes later they reached the doors of the principal's office. Don't get too intimidated by my boss Midoriya, he may be a little exuberant but he is a good person. Izuku turned at him with a questioning gaze. Why does he doubt to say a person? Opening the door he was received by a very peculiar sight. An office with a lot of books, screens and other office furniture, at the back of the office a big desk and a chair, and on said chair was a mouse? That's right. It's me, the one who could be a dog or a mouse or a bear, but more importantly, I'm the Principal Nizu. The principal shouted happily, and you must be Midoriya Izuku. Aizawa wouldn't shut up about you. That's not true, Aizawa said with a tired sigh. As he said, Midoriya, he is the principal of you. He asked to talk to you as soon as possible and he wouldn't shut up until I brought you here. He is delusional, Midoriya, I tell you. The lack of sleep is making him hallucinate. Nizu cackled playfully, but putting Aizawa's delusions aside, I really wanted to meet you, the kid that saved a full-fledged professional hero, Aizawa grunted, and the amazing mind that wrote these. Nizu took Eraserhead and present mic notes of one of his drawers. These notes are really amazing, Midoriya. Thank you, sir. Izuku bowed. Don't be so formal, just call me Nizu. The principal's cheery demeanor suddenly became serious, and I wanted to talk with you about how dangerous your notes are. Izuku's eyes snapped open when Nizu said that. I don't understand, Principal Nizu. This notes not only have a lot of ways of help heroes, it seems that you also write a lot of ways to counter them. He took a page of present mic notes. He only seems to use his quirk for PRDS of 15 seconds tops, before he needs to take another breath, that gave a span of 2 to 3 seconds before he can use his quirk again. The amplifier he had on his neck seems sturdy but it seems to have a removable plate on the bottom. A good hit there would probably damage it and his power would be reduced at least 30%. The most efficient way to defeat him is using gas. Ammonia, for example, is easy to obtain and would easily block his throat for a while. Nizu stopped reading and looked at Izuku. You understand why I wanted to talk with you now, right? Izuku's eyes were wide and he was completely pale. He never saw his notes as something dangerous before, but now that Principal Nizu read it out loud he understood the severity of his books. I have a lot to learn, isn't it, Fukusa-sensei? I need to move all my notebooks to Minato's cave as soon as possible. Your face tells me that you understand the danger of these notebooks. Yeah, if any of them fell on villains' hands it could be really dangerous for the heroes. Don't worry, Principal Nizu, I would make sure no one get my notes. Izuku nodded to himself. Nice, I must apologize for asking you to do something about this, but it could become a problem if these notebooks end in the hands of a villain. Now with that behind us, I have a few questions for you if you don't mind. Nizu's cheerful demeanor returned. First of all, Aizawa here told me that you want to be a hero. I must ask why? The change of topic put Izuku in a more relaxed mood. And Principal Nizu's question was one that he has answered before. When I was a child I would have said that I wanted to save people with a smile on my face like All Might. Honestly, my answer hasn't changed that much. I still want to save people while smiling, but at the same time I want people that are in trouble to never lose hope, that no matter the issue, they kept their hope alive because in their ears they'll know that I would do everything in my power to save them, Izuku said with a small smile. You want to be the next symbol of peace? Nizu asked curiously. No, peace, unfortunately, isn't something that I can achieve. Alone, only All Might gave us something akin to an era of peace, so no, I don't want to be the next symbol of peace, I want to become a symbol of hope. Izuku immediately turned red after saying that. That's an amazing dream, Midoriya. The still red Izuku looked at the principal who had a kind smile on his face. I hope you're considering joining UA in a few months. Yes, Principal Nizu, I'm planning to take the entrance exam next year. Nizu nodded at him. That's perfect, I can't wait to have you as a student. And from what Aizawa said, you have a lot of abilities that could help you. What brings me to the last question. Nizu brought a folder from another drawer of his desk. Here says that your quirk didn't come until you were 8 years old. That's really something you hear every day. Izuku immediately got nervous. He didn't talk about his chakra just with a few people he trusted, his mom and Kirishima. He wanted to tell Ishido, but they never get to train together, so it was weird to just explain her. Out of the blue, he told Kirishima they should start training with her for the exam and he would tell her about his abilities then. Yeah, I'm a late bloomer. Nizu noticed how Izuku turned more serious, but he was curious about the boy's power. Here says that your quirk is energy manipulation. Could you explain to me how that works? Don't go into details, just the basic for it. Well, basically my power let me control the energy inside me, I call it chakra, and mold it the way I need it. Nizu nodded. So the walls Aizawa mentioned were built by you fusing your energy to the floor and mold it with said energy. Izuku's eyes widened a little. Yeah, that's the gist of it. And your quirk developed when you were 6? Yes, sir, as I said, I'm a late bloomer. Well, I'm glad that you became so proficient with it in so little time. I would have lost my dear Aizawa if you didn't. Nizu jumped out of his chair and walked to a smaller table with a chessboard in it. Do you know how to play? Izuku raised an eyebrow but nodded. Before you leave, would you like to play a game with me? I have a few propositions for you. Izuku turned to Aizawa, who was looking at Nizu with a raised eyebrow. Then he turned to Izuku and shrugged. Yeah, I would like to play against you, Principal. Nizu clapped his paws happily. Aizawa sighed and turned to leave. I'll go check some things with Ken. Call me when you're over to accompany Midoriya home. Nizu nodded and started to talk with Izuku. I have a really bad feeling about this. 45 minutes later, Aizawa was coming back to Nizu's office. Opening the door, he saw Nizu sitting alone on his desk with a very thoughtful expression. Where's Midoriya? He left about 5 minutes ago. Don't worry, he said that you didn't have to worry about him getting home. Aizawa grunted and nodded. If what I saw yesterday is what I think it is, I know he doesn't need me to accompany him home. Well, why do you need me for? If he already left. You know, I proposed to him a few ideas. Aizawa narrowed his eyes. After all, I made him come all the way here and asked to keep his hobby as a secret, so I felt compelled to make something for him. I don't have a good feeling about this, Aizawa muttered. Nonsense, but I want you to know that he'll come here twice a week. One day he'll come with me to hone his analytical skills. Aizawa paled a bit. I hope Nizu doesn't corrupt Midoriya. The world is not ready for 2 of him. And the other day he'll go with you to practice his fighting skills. Aizawa was about to protest, but Nizu continued. I know you want to know more about his abilities. His quirk energy manipulation is really vague from what you saw him do and the little he shared with us. Aizawa stopped his protest and let Nizu continue. He understands that you're a pro-hero and won't have always had chances, but he said that even if he practiced alone and with his friend, he doesn't get to learn a lot, and he is intrigued by your hand-to-hand combat. You can't fool me, Nizu. You want to keep him monitored, and if he is as analytical as you say he is, he'll notice in no time. He already knows, Nizu cackled, but it's a one-time opportunity too, so after think about it, he accepted. He seems to trust us a little, so as he said, he took a leap of faith with us, and I won't betray his trust. I may want to observe him and his abilities, but I won't make him say or do anything he doesn't want to. But you would make me do something I don't want to. That's a little hypocritical from you, Aizawa complained. A little, but I pay you, so you have little to say on that, and as I said before, you can't lie to me. You want to pick Midoriya's skill too. Aizawa wanted to argue, but he really was curious about his savior. 1 hour a week and I get to decide when. I just need his number to message him when I have time. Nizu immediately gave him a piece of paper. Of course you already have it. He turned to leave when he saw the chessboard that was ready to start a new game. So how much time took you to win against him? Nizu chuckled a little. Oh no, I didn't win. We ended up in a draw. Aizawa stumbled before he reached the door. He got a draw in chess with Nizu? I'm already regretting having shown you those notes. Aizawa left Nizu's office with a lot on his mind and the mad laugh of Nizu on his ears. Chapter 7. Izuku was walking to his house after saying goodbye to Kirishima and Ishido, craving to get home to rest and enjoy his off day from training and study. After training with Aizawa-sensei and Principal Nizu for a couple of months, they recommended that at least once every 2 weeks he should lay down and relax. Now that he was thinking about how the last months had been quite crazy for him, after saving Aizawa-sensei his life took a turn for the better. He knew his analytical skills were growing with Principal Nizu's help, but for some reason, all the teachers on UA get really nervous when he had his sessions with the principal. Sometimes he heard things like, "He's pure, we shouldn't let Nizu corrupt him," or, "The world is not ready for 2 of him." But Izuku couldn't figure out the reason why they thought that. After all, he is looking at things in ways he usually didn't, and he loved the exams the principal make him do. The exams had a lot of different heroic situations and he needed to solve them with minimal if no casualties. Some of them were really complicated or really dark, and make him take really difficult decisions, but after reading Minato's diaries he understood the cold reality of the battlefield and war. He honestly just prayed to never be in those situations. Now with Aizawa things were rocky the first session. Izuku thought that the teacher really hated him for making plans of training without his consent, but after their first 2 sessions he understood that the man was just really cranky. Not in a bad way actually. If you put enough attention, it was kind of funny how he treated to hide his emotions under his tired and uninterested face. Talking about Aizawa, he became the 3rd person not counting his mom to know about Izuku's abilities. When they were sparring on their 3rd session, he didn't make Izuku fall down from the ceiling. It was kind of a weird situation. Flashback. Izuku dodged to his right, barely avoiding the capture scarf from Eraserhead. Izuku would admit it any day. The pro hero was an amazing fighter, almost no openings or wasted movements. His proficiency with his weapon was astounding, yet Izuku could put more of a fight using his Hiration and all his techniques, but these training sessions were supposed to help him improve his hand-to-hand combat. Looking at the next attack from the pro hero, Izuku saw an opening on his right side. He sidestepped the attack and used his chakra to boost his movements, closing the distance between them in a second. But before he could throw a punch he saw Aizawa's knee moving at frantic speed aimed directly to his face. He jumped high to avoid the knee to his face and stood on the ceiling trying to catch his breath. I should have seen that feint, he thought out loud, panting slightly. It wasn't a feint, Midoriya, you actually caught me off guard, but my instincts are more developed than yours and I reacted accordingly. Aizawa was intrigued, looking at the teenager standing in the ceiling like it was nothing. Get down, we still have 35 minutes of training. He used his quirk to make Izuku drop, but nothing happened. His eyebrows rose in shock. For their first 2 sessions Izuku was being really careful with Eraserhead. Every time he used his abilities, either for standing on a wall or boosting his physical abilities, he checked if the hero was using his quirk on him to deactivate whatever he was doing. But right now he was too focused, thinking about how in the 20-minute spar they were having he couldn't land a hit on the pro. Izuku was trying to come with a plan to finally get a hit on Eraserhead, so he didn't notice the hero using his quirk on him. Midoriya, come down, we need to talk. Izuku snapped of his thoughts and turned to see the pro hero who had his hair on the air and his red eyes narrowed, staring directly at him. Oh no! Izuku dropped down to the floor, his eyes focused on the ground, trying to come with anything to explain at the pro hero. For his part, Aizawa could see the discomfort of the teen and decided to not push too much. I can see that you don't want to talk about your quirk, Midoriya, and I won't pry, but it would really help with your training if I understand how is that your quirk works. Don't go into specifics, just the basic explanation of your quirk. Izuku looked up to see the pro hero who had a soft gaze on his tired eyes. I've seen you made a lot of things that don't add up to the name you had on your quirk registration, energy manipulation, and I can't even begin to understand why my quirk couldn't deactivate yours. Izuku nodded. Maybe it was time to come clean with his teacher. For some reason, he felt he could trust Aizawa, but first he needed to test that trust. What would you tell me if I ask you if a quirkless person can be a hero? Aizawa raised an eyebrow, not understanding what the question had to do with anything, but played along. I would tell you that he would need more training than anyone in the hero course and a lot of support items. Izuku's head snapped up to look at the pro hero. Are you telling me the truth? Do you really think that a quirkless person can be a hero? Midoriya, what is my quirk? You erase the quirk of the person you look at. Your quirk works with emitter and transformation types, but you can't stop the quirk of someone who had a mutation quirk. Your eyes get really dry because Aizawa raised a hand to stop his muttering. That's enough. Yeah, my quirk stops the quirk of a person and nothing more. It doesn't augment any physical abilities or give me something to attack better, it just evens the battlefield, but I basically fight quirkless against many of my enemies with only my training and experience at hand. Having said that, do I think if a quirkless person could be a hero? Yes, as I said, he would need a lot of physical training and support items to even the battlefield as I do, but yes, I believe it's possible. Izuku couldn't believe his ears. This person, a pro hero, was saying what he longed to hear for years. Of course, he has his chakra and techniques now, but deep inside him he always dreamed of someone saying that having or not a quirk didn't matter, that he could become a hero. You've no idea how much your words means to me, Aizawa-sensei. Izuku was beaming at the pro hero who was looking at him confused. I may have the abilities to become a hero, but I was born as a quirkless child. The confusion in Aizawa grew at the statement of Izuku. I've seen you do things that are only capable with a quirk, Midoriya. If you don't want to talk about your quirk, I understand, but you don't need to lie. But I'm not lying. You can check it with my pediatrician. He must have the records of my 4-year-old quirk exams. I even have the double joint in my pinky and everything, Izuku said, laughing a little. Aizawa was trying to look at any sign of lie on Izuku, but all his mannerism and facial expression told him he was actually telling the truth. Okay, let's imagine that I believe you. How do you explain your abilities? Aizawa crossed his arms, waiting for a reasonable explanation from Izuku, who just chuckled. Well, that's because of my chakra, Izuku said, smiling widely, and then started telling Aizawa his story, how he was bullied for being quirkless as a child, his adventure on the inside of the mountain, Minato's books. He even told him about his weekends training with Fukusa-sensei on MD Myobokuzan and all the training he has devoted himself to. Aizawa heard the story at first with doubt, but after he heard more and more, he couldn't help but believe what Izuku was saying. No matter how amazing his imagination or how prepared he could have the story, the way he recounted it simply didn't sound like a lie. If what you tell me is true, why keep it as a secret? Izuku's face took a more somber look. In the age that we live in, quirks are the law. Imagine if anyone, it doesn't matter if it is a quirkless person or a person with a quirk that doesn't help him to be a hero, like changing their hair color, suddenly had the power to rival most pro heroes. How society would react to that. Aizawa could already imagine the problems that situation would put the society in. Now imagine the worst-case scenario: villains get a hold of chakra. Chakra is a power that literally anyone can have. Of course, the amount of chakra a person have varies a lot, but what if a simple thug with a simple but dangerous quirk, let's imagine like bladed nails, suddenly started spitting fireballs at will? The pro hero palled at the possibility of common robbers with that kind of power. A power he couldn't shut down with his quirk. But in all honesty, the principal reason I hide it is because chakra is dangerous from its roots. Do you know what happens if you run out of chakra? You die, plain and simple. Your body shuts down. Honestly, I can say I've been blessed with a teacher who left detailed instructions on how to control and understand chakra. Aizawa was lost for words. He didn't understand why, but he believed every word Izuku said to him. From his story to all the reasons he had to hide the core of his abilities, all the problems chakra could bring to this era. That was something that should be avoided at all costs. I thank you for your trust, Midoriya, but I must tell you that you are right to keep your abilities hidden. Besides me, how many people know about your chakra? Well, my mom, of course, knows about it, but she was the one who told me the reasons I should keep it hidden, and the other person is my best friend Kirishima Ijiro from my school, but he is very trustworthy, so he won't say anything, although I don't really think he fully understood what I told him. Oh, and I'm planning to tell my other good friend Ishido Mina. She is as trustworthy as Kirishima and as airhead as him, but I wouldn't change them for anything in the world, Izuku said, scratching the back of his head while chuckling. Telling your closest friends is okay, just try to not go around telling everyone you meet. You already know the consequences of what could happen if people knew about an energy that everyone has and gives them powers to level buildings. Izuku nodded firmly and saw Aizawa move to the other side of the arena. Now I want you to attack me using your techniques. I want to know the level you're at your best. It could be really dangerous, sensei. Remember that your quirk doesn't stop my techniques and your fighting styles revolves around evening the battlefield, Izuku said worriedly. Don't worry about me, Midoriya, I won't pull back my attacks either. And as a pro hero I'm not a one-trick pony, I also have a few aces under my sleeve. Izuku smiled at him and nodded. From a small pouch on his back he withdrew 2 of his 3-bladed kunai and took position on the other side of the arena. Both combatants stood still waiting for his opponent. A few moments later Aizawa took off running at Izuku with a speed the teen hasn't seen before. He really was pulling his attacks on me. He too moved using his chakra freely trying to match Aizawa's speed, and threw a kunai directly at Aizawa who just moved his body aside to avoid it easily. Your attacks are too direct and easy to avoid, Midoriya. Suddenly Izuku disappeared in a flash of green from his point of view. Aizawa saw it appear behind him out of the corner of his eye, catching the kunai on the air and aiming a kick to his side. I've seen that technique before, it won't work on me, Midoriya. Aizawa used his capture scarf to repel Izuku's attack, but he disappeared again. Aizawa felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up and looked up just to see Izuku aiming a punch from above him. I didn't see when he threw that kunai above me. This kid is really something else, Aizawa thought, smirking. Flashbackins. Wow, I can't believe it's been almost 3 months since that day. After that training session Aizawa-sensei decided that we should train 3 times a week. He said it was for my benefit, but I can see that he enjoys finding new ways to avoid my techniques and kick my butt. Suddenly, he felt the hair on his neck stand up. Acting on instinct, he jumped forward, avoiding his attacker. Turning around to face his enemy, he was received with the sight of a massive green sludge with sickly yellow eyes. Ho, what do I have here? An invisibility coat with amazing reflexes. Don't worry, I just need your body. I swear it will hurt just for about a minute, the green sludge villain said with a wicked smile. Ah, I see. Sorry, but I have dinner with my mom and she is making katsudon. Do you know how many times she does it over the year? You can count the times with one hand. Maybe we could reschedule for tomorrow, Izuku said while taking a fighting stance. I don't like when my victims talk too much. I like them docile and quiet, the sludge man said, pouncing at Izuku again, only for him to disappear from his sight. What? Where are you? The villain was looking around when a barrage of shurikens pierced his body from behind. Huh, your body is fully made of liquid. I thought that maybe you had a membrane holding it together. Your quirk is amazing, Izuku said. Don't make fun of me, child. The sludge villain body turned into tendrils that launched against Izuku, who disappeared again. Stop disappearing, you fucker. A voice made him look up. I honestly wasn't making fun of you. If you didn't become a villain, I can easily see you becoming a hero with your quirk is so versatile. Is really a waste that you turned a villain. Izuku started making seals with his hands. Wind style, vacuum bomb. Izuku expelled a massive sphere of air from his mouth directly at the sludge villain. What the dash? The sludge villain couldn't finish his sentence when he exploded in hundreds of sludge pieces all around the tunnel. Damn it! How am I supposed to collect all that? I have some sludge on my shoes. Suddenly the sewer lid on the street exploded and Izuku took a fighting stance again when a booming laugh made his eyes widen. Everything, it's fine now. But because I'm here. The mountain of a man appeared from the sewer. Don't worry, young man, I'll take care of. All Might stance dropped at the sight in front of him. A young man standing in the middle of a tunnel that was covered in sludge. What happened here? Did you do this, young man? All Might. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were chasing him. But he attacked me, and according to the law, I'm allowed to defend myself. Izuku's mind was crashing down from having his idol in front of him. Ha ha, don't worry, young man. I'm not here to punish you for defending yourself. I'm actually impressed. This villain was a crafty one. Izuku was using all his will to no scream in joy like a little kid. All Might was impressed by him. Oh, thank you so much, All Might. Wait a second. Izuku started rummaging through his backpack. Could you sign this, please? He said, offering his notebook and bowing deeply. With practice ease, All Might signed Izuku's notebook while the poor boy was trying to not faint. There it is, young man. Now if you excuse me, I have to found something to put the villain in before I took it to the police station. All Might was looking around for a container when Izuku talked again. What about those water bottles? Izuku said while pointing at the bag on All Might's hand. Nice thinking, young man. All Might poured the water on the street and crouched to start filling the bottle with sludge. Please let me help you. Izuku crouched and started to help his idol. A few minutes later the task was over and All Might closed the bottle cap. Thank you, young man, for your assistance. I need to go and leave this criminal in the police station before I keep patrolling. Remember, crime never sleeps. All Might turned around with a booming laugh and was about to leave when Izuku stopped him. Wait, All Might, that bottle doesn't seem too secure. Please let me at least make sure he doesn't have any chance to escape. Izuku pulled a small scroll from his back pouch and wrapped the bottle with it, then pulled a paper tag with the word seal written on it. He put the paper on the bottle and whispered, "Seal." The scroll paper seemed to wrap more tightly on the bottle. Here it is. When you have the cell ready for him, just remove the paper tag and the paper will unwrap itself, Izuku said cheerfully. All Might, who saw what Izuku did in silence, was surprised. Whatever this kid did really secured the bottle. Now I don't have to hurry to the police station. His quirk really is a weird one. He somehow defeated the villain, blowing him to pieces, and now he sealed the bottle like this. And again, I have to thank you for your help, young man. Before I leave, I have a question. What do you plan to do in the future? Izuku's eyes widened at the question, but his mouth practically talked by itself. I want to be a hero like you, All Might. All Might grinned more widely at him. I can't wait to call you a colleague, young man. Keep the amazing work. With that, All Might jumped through the air, disappearing in the distance. All Might called me a colleague. Well, a future colleague. Izuku turned serious and started looking around. After verifying that no one was around, he jumped in the air, screaming in happiness. Yes, yes, yes. He dropped to the floor and ran to pick up his shurikens. Those things don't grow on 3, and then used Hiration to get home quickly. He normally enjoyed walking, but today he had to talk to his mom as soon as possible. It's not every day that the #1 hero gives you his autograph, thank you for your work, and call you a future colleague. That was the first time the actual symbol of peace met the future symbol of hope. Chapter 8. It was finally the day of the entrance exam, and Izuku was getting more excited by the minute. He double-checked everything he needed, and finally, being satisfied with himself, he walked to the door. Izuku, he turned to see his mother looking at him with a warm smile. Don't outshine everyone too much. Izuku couldn't help but blush at that. The confidence his mom had in him always made him want to strive further. I'll see what I can do, Mom. He left his house, leaving his mom chuckling behind him. The travel to the school was silent, and Izuku was happy about that. He knew he had to excel in his entrance exam. Aizawa-sensei made pretty clear that he won't give him any special treatment or extra points for being his hand-to-hand teacher. Moreover, he said that he would grade him harsher than anyone, to what Izuku couldn't help but chuckle. What a weird form to say you have faith in someone. Izuku walked the already familiar route from the station to UA, and after a few minutes he stood in front of the massive school. He has been coming to the school for the last 12 to 13 months, so he shouldn't feel any different. But he couldn't help it. This time was the real deal. This time he was taking the first step to achieve his dreams. He walked slowly, trying to steady his fast-beating heart when he felt something shift in the air. Dev, someone whisper growled at Izuku, who immediately recognized the person. After all these years, there's only one person that would keep that name. Bakugo Katsuki, Izuku said in an even if not cold tone that seemed to tick the explosive blonde. What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here, Bakugo growled, and Izuku raised an eyebrow at the tone. It was weird for him to hear Bakugo scream at every moment. What I'm doing here is none of your business, Bakugo. Izuku noticed that every time he used his name, Bakugo seemed to flinch a little. Maybe I'm looking too much into things. What did you say, Deku? Izuku noticed that Bakugo was starting to lose composure if the aggressive stance he took was any indicator. You want to start something here? When we are practically at the UA doors. Are you that desperate to lose your chance to enter the school? Izuku said, moving his left foot forward, preparing for an attack. He wasn't sure if Bakugo was that crazy, but he hadn't seen him in 9 years. Maybe he is more violent than before. Bakugo seemed to think about what Izuku said because he broke his aggressive stance and put his hands on his pant pockets. "Don't get in my way, Deku, or I'll kill you." He growled at him and started walking to the doors, never breaking eye contact with Izuku, who still had his cold gaze focused on him. "I'm glad to see you again, Bakugo," Izuku whispered sarcastically. Everyone around them could feel the tension of their encounter, and finally, when Bakugo walked through the door, they seemed to calm down. Izuku stood there for a while trying to calm his feelings. He couldn't believe that after all these years looking at Bakugo would make him feel angry. A minute later, when he finally regained his composure, he started walking again. "I can't believe that I run into him. What are the odds? I knew that I would encounter him sooner or later. We both dreamed to. Come here." "Well, I'll worry about him later. Now it's time to take this exam head-on." Somehow he didn't notice the loose tile on the floor and tripped. "You know, all my teachers have told me to stop losing myself in my head because I always end either kissing the ground or crashing against walls. But no, I refused to hear their wisdom and kept overthinking. Wait a moment, this fall is taking forever." "Excuse me?" a voice said to his left. He turned his head to see a girl with brown hair in a bob cut, rosy cheeks, and a confused face. "Wait, why is she upside down?" The girl giggled, and in a swift motion she rolled him and put him on the floor. "I'm not upside down, you were." "Sorry, but I saw you falling and used my quirk on you. But I thought that falling before an exam was a bad luck omen." "Oh my god, you have a quirk that affects gravity. That's amazing, you can make a lot of things with it dash." Izuku cut himself and cleared his throat. "Sorry about that, I'm a quirk nerd and can't help it when I see one. Thank you so much for helping me." Izuku bowed his head a little. "Don't worry, I'm just happy to help, but man, isn't this all nerve-wracking." "This is you after all," the girl said with a cute smile. "Well, I'll go ahead, good luck." Before she took 2 steps, Izuku stopped her. "Hey, sorry, what is your name?" "I would like to know the name of the hero who stops my fall," Izuku said, smiling. The girl blushed a little at being called a hero. "My name is Uraraka Ochako, glad to meet you." "I'm Midoriya Izuku, glad to meet you too." "Do your best and trust your abilities, and we'll see each other in class." Ochako beamed at him and nodded, then turned around and walked through the doors. He entered moments after her and went to the classroom where the written exam would be. Minutes later, the classroom got full and a teacher he didn't recognize distributed the exams. 15 minutes later, Izuku left the classroom first, leaving behind wide-eyed students and teachers. He met with Kirishima and Ashido an hour later. When they finally finished the exam, they got to their seats, and Ashido let her head fell to the table in a loud thunk. "I know I blew it, Midori. All the effort you put in helping me study directly to the drain." Izuku chuckled nervously. "Don't say that, Ashido. You're really smart when you focus. I can guarantee you did great. Isn't that right, Kirishima?" He turned to his right just to see Kirishima's soul leaving his body through his mouth. "Kirishima." "I'm sorry, Midori bro. You go without me, I don't have anything left on me." "You both are getting ridiculous. I'm pretty confident you guys did just fine." Izuku tried to reassure them. He didn't get to say any more because the lights went out and a reflector lighted the podium in front of them, revealing, "Present Mike is explaining the practical exam." Everybody say, "Aye." A long silence was the only response for the hero. "You guys are depressing. Whatever, let me explain the practical exam. Are you ready?" More silence. Izuku felt bad for the hero. After all, they got along pretty well the few times they catch each other while Izuku trained with Aizawa or Nizu. As you read on the forms you signed, you'll be driven to a simulated battle that will last only 10 minutes in a battleground that is a few minutes away from here. Present Mike continued, ignoring the silence. "If you filled the forms, you can take whatever support item you need." Izuku checked the card the school gave him. He was in Battleground B. Turning to his sides, he checked Kirishima's and Ashido's cards, Battlegrounds C and A. So they separate people from the same school to not cooperate, Izuku whispered to Kirishima and Ashido. In each battleground, there are 3 types of enemies that will give you points depending on their difficulty. Present Mike continued, "You have to either destroy or immobilize these enemies to earn said points, and remember, attacking other participants is prohibited and will get you disqualified on the spot." "Excuse me, can I ask something?" Izuku turned to see the owner of the voice. It was a blue-haired boy with glasses. Getting a yes from Present Mike, the blue-haired boy continued, "There are 4 types of enemies on the prints you gave us. If this is a mistake, you should be ashamed. And you with the green messy hair, you've been muttering all the time." It's distracting. This is no place to come and chit-chats. Izuku's eyes narrowed and he was about to say something but Ishido reacted first. What is your problem, huh? If something as simple as muttering distracts you, you're on a wrong career path. Suddenly Kirishima stood with a pumped fist. Yeah, Midoribro was only explaining to us some things we didn't understand because he wants us to have a fair shot in this exam. The blue-haired boy was shocked. He didn't expect two people jumping at him. Take your seat, participant 7111. Izuku's bad mood disappeared after his friends jumped in his defense and he couldn't help but chuckle at the more serious tone. Present mic adopted with the blue-haired boy. If you let me finish my presentation, you'll know about the fourth type of enemy. I'm sorry for my interruption. The blue-haired boy bowed deep and took his seat again. No problem, participant 7111. Present mic returned to his cheery self. Now the fourth type of enemy is worth 0 points, so there is no point in trying to defeat it, is more like an obstacle than anything. I recommend you avoid it. Murmurs rang out in the classroom, and that is all I have to tell you guys. Let's end this with the school motto, plus ultra. The class got empty pretty fast and after 15 minutes they were on a bus on their way to the different battlegrounds. When Izuku got out, he started stretching. When he noticed Uraraka breathing deeply as if trying to keep her nerves down, he started walking towards her when a hand on his shoulder stopped him. She looks like she is trying to focus. What are you doing here? Are you trying to mess with the rest of the students? The blue-haired boy again. Izuku's eyes narrowed. I recommend you to take your hand off me if you want to keep it, Izuku said menacingly while two kunai dropped to his hands from under his blazer sleeves. Instinctively the blue-haired boy retreated his hand and was about to say something, but Izuku talked first. I don't know what is your problem with me, but have you thought that I know her and I want to tell her something to calm her nerves? I didn't know. I apologize. Izuku took a deep breath. Forget it. Izuku was interrupted by a loud shout. Let's go start. Present. Mike shouted. Izuku reacted immediately, throwing one of the kunai on his hand that soared through the air all the way to the entrance to the head of a robot that was at least 100 meters away. All the other participants looked at the action that just happened in front of them, the green-haired boy throwing a knife directly at the head of a robot, and not even a second later the same green-haired boy was picking up said knife from the head of the robot that was 100 meters away. The boy looked around and started running into the massive battleground. Nice one, little listener. And what are you all waiting for? There is no countdown in real life. Go, go, go. The rest of the participants snapped out of their shock and took off running into the battlefield. Izuku was having an amazing time. It was weird for him to use his abilities freely like this out of but Mt. Myobokuzan. He looked at his right and saw a 2- and 3-pointer moving towards him. He made some seal with his hands and shouted. Fire style, grand fireball. He breathed a big fireball that blew the robots into pieces. A few seconds later the flames disappeared and he looked around. No collateral damage other than a little scorched pavement. I need to train more with that one. All right, that makes 59 points. That should be enough, but I think I have around 5 minutes left. Suddenly a scream of pain took Izuku's attention, and he took off running at the direction he heard the scream coming from. His eyes widened when he saw a purple-haired boy being surrounded by 3 1-pointers and 1 3-pointer. The purple-haired boy looked hurt. Even if the robots won't lethally hurt them, they could still rough them a little. Izuku's mind quickly formulated a plan. He took a deep breath and made seals with his hands and took his stance. Thunder appeared quickly on his left hand, and the sound of 1,000 birds was heard by the purple-haired boy who turned at him with wide eyes. Izuku started running and drew 3 kunai from his back pouch quickly, throwing with all his might at the heads of the 3 1-pointers, defeating them, and then took running fast against the 3-pointer who barely had time to turn its head to see Izuku already jumping with his left hand in front. Chidori! Izuku screamed and his hand went all the way through the body of the robot that after a moment ceased all its movements. Izuku took his hand off the bot and jumped to check on the purple-haired boy. Hey, are you alright? Izuku saw the boy's shocked face turn into a sneer. Of course, another person blessed with a combat quirk. This test is bullshit. People with non-combatant quirk had no chance in this kind of exam. Izuku raised an eyebrow but decided to try and help the purple-haired boy. What is your quirk? What do you care? You don't have to worry about me taking your spot in the hero course. Don't act as you care. Izuku's serene expression didn't change. I'm asking because maybe I can help you in how to use it to pass this exam. The purple-haired boy eyes widened a little, but then let his head drop. My quirk is brainwashing. Now it was time for Izuku to have his eyes widen. That's an amazing quirk. The purple-haired boy head snapped up at Izuku, but I understand what you say. It won't help you against mindless robots. The boy clenched his fist in anger and was about to say something back, but Izuku wasn't in front of him anymore. He looked around and out of nowhere Izuku jumped in front of him with 3 knives on his hands. Your quirk won't help you, so you need to try a different approach. Izuku offered the boy a kunai. The 1 and 2 pointers have weak armor that kunai can easily cut through them. I recommend you to aim for the head, but I'll say you don't have experience throwing knives, right? The boy nodded. Then you have to get close and personal. Your best bet is to go for the 1 pointers. Those are really weak and there are a lot of them. 2 pointers have less armor than 1 pointers, but they are fast, so try to take them by surprise. Avoid 3 pointers, their armor is really thick. The purple-haired boy was completely lost for words, but Izuku put a hand on his shoulder to snap him out of his funk. You have around 4 minutes left. Do your best, man. Izuku could see the resolve entering the boy's eyes, who nodded at him. Izuku turned to leave, but the purple-haired boy stopped him. Hitoshi Shinso. My name is Hitoshi Shinso. What is your name? Midoriya Izuku. Thank you for giving me a chance, Midoriya, Shinsho said, smiling at him. Never lose hope, man. You can do it, Izuku said before took off running looking for more robots or people to help. Izuku was now at 67 points and he knew he was doing amazing. He even had a little time to help other participants from debris or a damaged robot that was trashing wildly. 2 minutes left. He hears Present Mike shout, so he decided that he will start making his way out of the battlefield, taking on the robots that appear on his way. Another minute later, the earth suddenly trembled. Turning around, Izuku's eyes widened at the sight of a robot the size of a skyscraper was coming towards them. That's just ridiculous. Izuku took off running to the entrance along with a lot of participants, including Shinso, who looked really beaten, and the blue-haired boy when a cry of pain made him stop. He turned around and his heart dropped at the sight. 3 participants were trapped under rubble and one of them was Uraraka. His mind went into overdrive trying to make a plan on how to save them. Hiration would be my best chance, of course, but I only have 2 kunai left. Not mentioning I take around 2 seconds to teleport someone else. Izuku's mind was made quickly. I will barely have time to save everyone. It'll be really close with Uraraka, but is my best bet. Blue-haired boy, Shinso? Izuku shouted at the boys who stopped in their tracks. Their eyes widened looking at the 3 trapped participants. Izuku then threw one of his kunai at the feet of the blue-haired boy, who jumped slightly. Please pick up the knife, and both of you prepare to catch. Without another moment to lose, Izuku threw his last kunai to the participant closest to the massive robot, a boy with a zigzag-patterned headband that was unconscious. The kunai barely touched the floor when Izuku was picking it up. He put a hand on the boy and 2 seconds later the boy appeared in front of Shinso, who fell to the floor when the unconscious body knocked him down. So that's what he meant with prepare to catch, wheezed Shinso on the floor. The blue-haired boy understood what Izuku was doing and prepared to catch the next participant. The second Izuku teleported the boy to Shinso, he threw the kunai again in front of the other participant in danger, a girl with an inexpressive face who had a rock over her arm. Izuku flashed again. Sorry, but I need to touch to get you out of here. Izuku put a hand on her shoulder and 2 seconds later the girl appeared in front of the blue-haired boy, who caught her and promptly put her on the ground with a blush on his face and started making chop notions with his arms. Last one. Izuku thought and threw the kunai one last time in front of Uraraka. He appeared in front of her when his eyes widened. She had her legs trapped under rubble that had a lot of metal pieces poking out. I can't move her like that. I don't know how damaged her legs are or if any metal piece pierced through her. I could worsen her injuries. He turned at the robot that was a couple of dozen meters away from them. Izuku turned to see Uraraka, who was looking at him with tears in her eyes, and that was all he needed to have his resolve overcome his doubt. He focused his chakra on his right hand and a sphere started forming. Don't worry, Uraraka, I'll take care of this, he said with a soft smile on his face while the ball grew on his hand. What started as a small ping-pong ball now was bigger than a basketball ball. He crouched and picked up his kunai when an idea popped on his head. Uraraka, could you please take the gravity from this? She didn't doubt for a second and touched the knife. Without losing more time, Izuku threw the kunai at the massive head of the robot. The kunai without gravity flew through the air like a supersonic bullet and reached its target in a second, and then a second later Izuku was in front of the head of the robot. Giant Rasengan. Izuku's Rasengan impacted the head of the colossal robot that exploded from behind, causing a chain reaction on the massive bot that started to explode everywhere. Izuku smiled for a second when he felt himself starting to lose consciousness. Okay, let's check how I'm doing. I'm really low on chakra. I got too excited on the exam, and my right shoulder popped out of its socket, and I'm falling at high speed. I'm going to survive, but this is going to hurt. Izuku prepared himself for the impact when someone slapped him. What the foo dash? Suddenly his falling speed slowed quickly and the movement popped his shoulder on its place. One less problem. Ugh. He turned to his right and saw Uraraka floating next to him with a face of struggle. Uraraka, you're not a pincushion and you can move, thank God. And you saved me from falling again. You're really my hero, Izuku said smiling. Release, Uraraka said while joining her hands and both fell to the ground. I reached you, I thought I wouldn't. Huge. She put her hands on her mouth but it was too late. Blurg, Izuku couldn't help but chuckle and walked beside her to rub her back. Ugh, thank you. This happens if I overuse my quirk. Don't worry about it. I wouldn't think less of my hero for a little bit of vomit. Izuku chuckled and Uraraka couldn't help but giggle a little too. A voice interrupted their moment. Good job everybody. Izuku and Uraraka turned to see a small woman walking towards the students. Ah, she's here. Uraraka, can you walk? She is recovery girl. She can help if you're hurt anywhere. I can't walk. I think I broke my ankle. Uraraka scratched the back of her head. I had to crawl a little to jump into this piece of metal to save you. Izuku looked at her with a warm smile. You're really amazing, Uraraka. Thank you for saving me there. Uraraka blushed a little but then her face went completely red when Izuku carried her bridal style. I'll take you to recovery girl. If your leg hurts anywhere please tell me. Uraraka was a sputtering mess. Midoriya. You don't have to carry me, I can wait for her to come here. Uraraka barely managed to say. Don't worry Uraraka, I won't let my hero hurt more if I can help it. Uraraka didn't say anything and just nodded, still completely red. A minute later they reached recovery girl and Izuku seated Uraraka on a rock in front of her. What do we have here? Recovery girl asked. Her ankle is probably broken. A big piece of rubble fell on her legs, Izuku answered and recovery girl nodded. Her lips extended and planted a kiss on Uraraka's cheek, and then a green aura appeared around her for a second. While my ankle doesn't hurt anymore. But I feel really tired, Uraraka said. Recovery girl's quirk uses your stamina to accelerate your healing, that's why you're exhausted, Izuku explained and recovery girl nodded at him. What about you, Sunny? Have you hurt anywhere? I had my shoulder dislocated for a second but when Uraraka saved me the sudden loss of speed popped it back in place. Recovery girl nodded and gave him bear gummies before walking away looking for more hurt students. So, how do you feel, Uraraka? Are you ready to walk? Izuku turned at her with a soft smile. Yeah, thank you so much for saving me. Uraraka bowed but Izuku just laughed. Hey, you saved me first, don't you remember? But you saved me from the 0-pointer. That's more than saving you for a small stumble, Uraraka said while waving her arms. And then you saved me from becoming a pancake on the floor, Izuku countered. And that makes you my hero. Uraraka's face reddened a little and was about to say something when a growl from her stomach made her already red face become a full tomato. And it seems that my hero needs to be saved from the hands of famine. Izuku chuckled. What do you say I'm going with my best friends for a plate of ramen? Wanna come? I don't want to intrude, that's something between you and your friends. Don't worry about it, my friends will love to meet my hero. Unless you have something to do, of course. Uraraka whined at being called a hero again. Stoop, she said softly, I don't have anything to do. Actually, I just moved here to take the exam so I don't know anyone, she said fidgeting nervously, and I don't have a lot of money. Don't worry about it. That's my treat for saving my bacon, Izuku said smiling and gestured to start walking. Both teens walked to the door talking about the exam and just friendly chat, not noticing the blue-haired boy not taking his eyes from Izuku. He understood the exam, he whispered. Izuku, Ijiro, and Mina were waiting outside UA for Uraraka. Well, Izuku was waiting for her. His friends were just teasing him. I'm pretty sure Midoribro hit his head. There is no way he would invite a girl to go eat with us. I'm pretty sure he is physically incapable of that. Kirishima said, grinning wildly. I've told you, is not that I can't talk with girls. Ishido made sure that I could talk to girls. After learning to deal with her, the rest of the girls are easy to talk to. See, I'm a blessing in your life, Midori. Aren't you happy that you accepted being my friend? Ishido said smugly. And I've told you that you didn't give me an option to refuse. I swear I have Stockholm Syndrome or something. Mina pouted at him, and Kirishima was about to say something when another voice entered their conversation. Sorry for the wait, Midoriya. Uraraka was running at them. Holy crap, she is real, Kirishima whispered. Izuku ignored him and turned to his new friend. Uraraka, is everything okay? You took a little bit of time. You didn't have a problem with your ankle or something, right? Izuku asked, a little concerned. No, not at all. I just had to talk with the teachers about something. Izuku nodded at her. Well, Uraraka, let me introduce you to my best friends. This is Kirishima Ijiro and Ishido Mina. Guys, this is Uraraka Ochako, my hero. Both teens gave her a friendly wave and smile, but Ishido jumped and grabbed her hand. Finally, another girl in our group. I love these two, but their extremely high rate of testing. She looked at Kirishima, and their lack of fashion sense. She turned to Izuku, who looked at her indignantly, are really hard to handle. Ishido cried playfully. I take offense to that comment about fashion, Izuku deadpanned. Dude, the last time we convinced you to go to the arcade you used a t-shirt that said button-up shirt, Kirishima said, raising an eyebrow. I thought it was funny, Izuku pouted. Whatever, let's go, I'm hungry. The four teens started walking. Ishido and Uraraka were in front of them, quickly becoming friends. Izuku turned to Kirishima, who was looking at Ishido, smiling softly. You know, your dopey eyes are becoming really hard to ignore. Maybe Uraraka and I should go to another place and leave you to your date. Izuku grinned at him, expecting a flustered Kirishima, who turned at him with a smug smile. If this is a date, didn't you turn it into a double date? Izuku was about to say something but stopped with his eyes wide and mouth hanging open. Or you're offering to get a single date with your hero? Izuku's face became a tomato and Kirishima laughed out loud. The rest of the day passed in a rush of food and friendly banter. A week later, Izuku was researching a new hero when his mom knocked on his door. Honey, it's here. Izuku ran to the door and looked at the letter on his mom's hand. He looked at her with a questioning gaze. Why don't you look nervous or anxious about this, Mom? Inko giggled softly and ruffled his hair. I've seen what you can do, Izuku. The only way you can fail this exam is if you fell on the ground and knocked yourself out. Izuku wanted to argue with her, but he remembered how Uraraka saved him from kissing the floor before even entering UA. Yeah, that seems reasonable, Inko giggled again. Do you want to look at it alone? Or do you want me to stay? Please stay, Mom. I'm almost sure that I made it, but I'm feeling pretty anxious about it. Both Midoriyas walked to Izuku's desk and opened the letter containing a holographic disc that came to life as soon as Izuku put it on the desk. I'm here as a projection. Both mother and son eyes widened. Hello, young Midoriya. I must tell you that I'm proud to hear you took the exam in my alma mater. When we met I knew you would dash. A hand interrupted All Might and made motions for him to speed up the message. It seems that I don't have enough time, but worry not, we'll have time in the future, because let me tell you, I'm becoming a teacher in UA for the next semester. Izuku wanted to scream in happiness. His favorite hero was going to teach him. Now the important part, your entrance exam score. Let's see. Here says you received 99% on the written exam and made 67 villain points on the practical exam, an amazing score that easily puts you in HIVE place, automatically making you an UA student. But let me show you something. A video started playing, a few teens approaching the teachers. There is this guy, green hair, throwing knives like a madman, freckles. The guy with the headband said, while the girl with deadpan expression nodded fervently. If he didn't make it, I want to give him some points. I mean, I don't doubt he scored high, but if saving me made him lose potential points, I want to help him to get it. The serious girl nodded quickly, as saying she was thinking the same. The video cut to another participant, the one Izuku knew, the name Shinso. Sensei, I want to give all my points to Midoriya. Izuku eyes widened. I only scored 9 or 10. I know it's not enough to pass. but I want him to have them. He gave me a chance to do better on the test, and even if I didn't make it I want to pay him for what he did for me. Izuku's eyes started watering when the video cut again. Now Uraraka was on screen. Hey sensei sir, do you remember Midoriya Izuku? Green hair and eyes. Cutely shaped freckles. He blushed and his mom smirked looking at the also blushing girl on the video. He saved my life, and I don't know if he made it, but if he didn't, please the points he needs to pass take it from mine. He is a hero and deserves to be here more than anyone. Izuku had tears rolling through his cheeks and a big smile on his face. You see young Midoriya, what truly makes an act heroic is the capability to make other act, and a good act can change the world. So look at this young Midoriya, there is another way to get points. After all, this is a hero school, rescue points. The screen showed the point screen and Izuku's eyes widened at what he saw. On the villain side he had 67 points. On the other side he had 80 rescue points, but more important was his placement. Congratulations young Midoriya for achieving the first place for the entrance exam with 147 points. You're the number 1 of the year. Welcome young Midoriya to your hero academia. The screen faded and Izuku was holding his chest in happiness. After all his training he made it, the first step to becoming what he dreamed. He turned to his mom and hugged her tightly. Inko was crying softly too. No matter how sure she was on Izuku to pass, she couldn't stop the tears of pride rolling through her cheeks. I knew you would do it Izuku, you'll be an amazing hero, Inko said softly while patting his head. Thank you mom, thank you so much. Chapter 9. Izuku was walking with Kirishima and Ishido through the halls of his new school. He couldn't help but chuckle at his friends' faces of amazement at everything they saw. What about these gigantic doors? Kirishima asked with wide eyes. Well, those must be for the students with quirks that affect their height, Izuku happy answered. What about the weird-looking hose? Ishido asked. Those are the water fountain, and it's the same principle, they are made like that for people with all kind of quirks. And this weird-looking locker? Both asked, marveled at the metal locker. That's the janitor locker. Guys, we need to move or we're going to be late to our first class. The trio walked faster to their classroom, and a few minutes later they were in front of another big door. We're here. This is the start of the best years of our life. The three cheered and Izuku was about to open the door when he heard someone yelling. Remove your feet off the desk in this instant. You're not only disrespecting UA but all the students that have used it. Izuku sighed. He recognized the voice instantly. Great, the annoying blue-haired boy. Well, I can handle him. Now please all gods above, don't let Bakugo being in my class. What are you talking about? Which school did you go to extra? Izuku's shoulders slumped. Of course, that's just my luck. Will it be too late to apply to Shiketsu or move to America? I'll wear my manners. I'm from Sumai Academy, Ida Tenya. Sumai. So you're elite then, I'll enjoy crushing you. Crushing me? Are you sure you want to be a hero? Suddenly Bakugo turned to the door and narrowed his eyes at Izuku, who responded with a deadpanned expression. Ida looked in the direction Bakugo was looking. He seemed to recognize Izuku and started walking towards him. Good morning. I'm from Sumai Academy, my name is Dash. Izuku raised a hand to stop him. I heard it, Ida Tenya. My name is Izuku Midoriya. Izuku tried to not sound too apprehensive to the boy, but the first impressions of him were not the best. This are my friends Kirishima Ijiro and Ishido Mina. Hello. Ishido said with a happy tone. What's up bro? Kirishima said, flexing his arm. A pleasure to meet you too, Midoriya. You noticed that there was something hidden on the exam, isn't it? Izuku just raised an eyebrow at him. I had no idea, and I judged you harshly. You're definitely better than me. Izuku noticed how constipated looked Ida saying that. Sorry, but I didn't notice anything. Another voice suddenly joined them. Midoriya, Ishido, and Kirishima. Hello. The four of them turned to see Uraraka smiling and waving at them. What do you guys think we'll do today? Just orientation and the opening ceremony. Who do you think will be our teacher? Uraraka seemed excited. If you came here to make friends you should leave, a voice said from behind them. They turned to see a man in a sleeping bag on the floor. Aizawa-sensei and his weird love for rolling on the floor with that sleeping bag. Izuku thought and then said, the teacher is here, we should go to our seats, he doesn't like wasting time. All the students walked to their seats after hearing that. It took you 6 seconds to sit and shut up, acceptable but not reasonable enough, Aizawa said with his usual tired tone. I'm Aizawa Shota, your homeroom teacher. Glad to meet you all. Izuku couldn't help but chuckle at the shocked expressions of his classmates. Put your sports uniform and meet me in the courtyard. Do it quickly, remember the time is limited for heroes. After the teacher left the classroom, all the students went to the dressers to prepare. A few minutes later, all the students were standing in the courtyard waiting for the instructions of their weird and tired-looking homeroom teacher who shocked them at the reason he brought them out. A quirk apprehension test? Screamed the students in shock except for Izuku, who knew Aizawa would pull something like that. What? But what about the opening ceremony and the orientation? Uraraka, you don't have time for those trivial things if you want to become a hero. And us as teachers have free rein on how we want to manage our class. Izuku looked at his classmates and could see the uneasiness on their faces. You've done this since primary school. You'll do series of exercises, but the difference will be that you'll be using your quirks. Bakugo, you had the most villain points on the practice exam, right? What was your record on the softball pitch? 67 meters, Bakugo answered curtly. Well, now try it using your quirk. Bakugo grinned wildly and went to the pit. You can do whatever you want while you remain inside the circle. Do your best. Bakugo stretched a little and a few seconds later he threw the ball while screaming, die. Izuku wanted to facepalm. The more he looked at his old bully, the more he felt he hadn't changed a bit. You have to know your limits. That's the first step to become a hero, Aizawa said while showing them Bakugo's score of 705.2 meters. Izuku should have seen coming what happened next. Ashido, for all her amazing traits, never learned to read a room and always saw the best of the situation, and Izuku liked her a lot for that. But he knew how Aizawa's mind worked, and now he face-bombed at his miscalculation. This seems really fun, Ashido said happily. Fun, huh? You have 3 years to become heroes. Are you going to have that attitude all the time? Izuku sighed, looking at the almost sadistic smile appear on his teacher's face. I see, then the one who ends last on the test will be expelled. But is the first day of school? Is not fair, Uraraka said. Life is not fair. Accidents, natural disasters and evil villains, you have to accept that. You're here to become heroes, not having a normal student life. The next 3 years of your life will be full of difficulties, and a lot of them would not be fair. You need to go beyond, plus ultra. Now the demonstration is over. Prepare yourselves. Izuku was really happy looking at the quirks of his classmates, how they used them to overcome the tests. He was also thinking about how to improve some of their techniques if they ever needed his help. He saw Uraraka removing the gravity of her clothes, and how Azui quirk helped her mobility. Man, I wish I had my notebook here. Something caught his eye. For a second he saw a frog talking with Uraraka, but the only thing he saw was Azui back of the head and Uraraka talking happily. I must be looking things. Midoriya, Bakugo, is your turn. Izuku wanted to say that Aizawa-sensei was doing it on purpose, but he never told him about his past with Bakugo, so he decided that whatever deity was looking upon him had a wicked sense of humor. Taking his place besides Bakugo, he saw from the corner of his eye how the blonde was looking at him again with narrowed eyes. 3, 2, 1, go. Izuku let more of his chakra flow through his body and ran, not noticing how he was a full body ahead of Bakugo. 3.5 seconds to 4.13 seconds, the machine said. Izuku smiled and walked to his friends, leaving a seething Bakugo behind him. The rest of the test passed similarly. He wasn't the best of in any of the tests, but he always scored second or third place. He knew he could do more, but his techniques weren't really useful for something physical, so he just used the physical improvements his chakra made to his already athletic body. Now there they were on the last test, the throwing ball one. Infinity? All the students exclaimed at Uraraka's score. The girl just grinned and sent them thumbs up. Midoriya, you're the last one. Izuku nodded and walked to the throwing pitch, catching the ball that Aizawa threw at him. Izuku stretched his arms and was about to throw the ball when Aizawa talked. Midoriya, I know the majority of your techniques weren't useful on the last tests, but I want you to get creative on this one. Izuku's eyes widened a little but nodded, thinking for a plan. A few seconds later he prepared again. Using all his strength he threw the ball that soared through the air at high speed. With that throw he could easily reach around 500 or 600 meters, but his teacher asked for more, so He started to make seals with his hands, and all his classmates looked at him weirdly. He locked his objective and attacked, wind-style, vacuum bullets. A barrage of air spheres came out of his mouth at high speed and exploding against the ball in a quick sequence, pushing it further and further. Kirishima and Ishido were grinning at Izuku. They knew that Izuku's techniques were more of the offensive and restrictive type, so he would only use his high physical strength for the test. So looking at his friend finally showing his techniques to their new classmates made them happy. To Uraraka and Ida was weird. They didn't remember Izuku using that on their practical test. The rest of his classmates were awing at Izuku's quirk. Bakugo had his eyes wide and his mouth hanging open. 1257 meters. Good job, Midoriya. Your physical strength is high, but you need to come with techniques that help you with dash. Aizawa was interrupted by a scream. Deku, since when do you have a quirk? You be. Bakugo screamed, running at Izuku with explosions cracking on his hands, but was stopped by Aizawa's capture scarf. What is this? I don't like being interrupted, and don't make me use my quirk, it gives me dry eye. The expression of the class was shocked hearing at the declaration of their teacher. Don't lose time is irrational, let's continue the class. You're lucky that he saved you, Bakugo murmured, but Aizawa heard it. You need to learn a lot. I didn't save him, I saved you. Bakugo's eyes widened, and turned to Izuku, who was looking at him with a cold stare and had two weird-looking knives on his hands. Another stunt like that and I'll expel you. Midoriya, where did you get those knives? Izuku's gaze softened when he turned to Aizawa. Bold of you to assume that I'm not always armed, sensei. To the surprise of everyone, Aizawa smirked at Izuku and continued walking. Izuku walked behind him, his cold demeanor forgotten when he reached his friends. Behind them, Bakugo stood glued to the floor thinking about what just happened. With a test over it, the results appeared on a hologram screen. Izuku smiled when he saw he was in second place, just under Yaoyorozu. Apparently his overall score was good even if he never got first place. He looked at the name in last place, Minoru Mineta. The poor guy was bawling his eyes out. Wait, I can't be expelled like this. My dreams of having girls throwing themselves at me will die. Izuku and his classmates looked at him with a different range of expressions, from weird out to gross out. By the way, the expulsion thing was a logical ruse to make you do your best, but don't misunderstand this. If I see you slacking or I don't see potential in you, I will expel you. Aizawa turned around and walked away. Go to your classroom, you have more classes for the day. It was obvious that he wouldn't expel anyone, Yaoyorozu said, and Izuku shook his head lightly. He wanted to argue that Aizawa expelled a full class last year because he thought none of them had potential, but let it pass, not wanting to scare his classmates. All the students walked to their classroom talking about the test they just survived and hoping that the rest of their time on UA won't be like that. At the end of the day, Izuku was with Kirishima, Ishido, and for some strange reason Ida, waiting for Uraraka, who stayed a little longer in school. I can't believe Aizawa-sensei fooled us like that. I thought this was the best of the best. But the teacher just deceived us like that. Izuku couldn't help but chuckle. It seemed that Ida was just really earnest about everything. He wasn't ill-intentioned. He didn't deceive us, Ida. He really planned to expel us if we didn't show any potential. Last year he expelled an entire class because of that reason. Ida turned at him with wide eyes. How do you know about that? Ida asked, and before Izuku could answer, Ishido intervened. He trained with Aizawa-sensei last year. Ida started to make robot movements with his arms, and Izuku decided to elaborate before his new friend had a slide. Weird circumstances happened and I ended training 2 or 3 days a week for the last year with him to improve my hand-to-hand combat. To be recognized like that by a pro hero and teacher of UA, you're definitely better than me, Midoriya. Izuku was about to retort when Uraraka's voice interrupted him. Deku, guys, I'm here, sorry for the wait. Izuku shocked a little when he heard Uraraka called him that. Deku? He asked. Well, I heard that blonde guy Bakugo call you that and I thought it sounded cute, she said, smiling, not noticing the smug face on Kirishima and Ishido, and the confused one on Ida. Deku is the way he calls me to make fun of me, Uraraka. It means useless. The name didn't bother him as much anymore, but it weirded him hearing it from a friend. The smug face on Kirishima and Ishido disappeared and became a frown. Izuku noticed that and shook his head at them. Wait, really? To me, it has a don't give up vibe, so I liked it. But if you don't like it, I won't call you that, Uraraka said worriedly. but Izuku put a finger to his chin in thought. You know I like the way you make it sound. He physically felt the grin on his two best friends' faces and he blushed. If you like it you can call me Deku. His face flushed more when he saw the beaming smile in Uraraka's face. Wait Midoriya, it wasn't supposed to be an insult. You shouldn't give on peer pressure like that. It starts with something small like that, then you end robbing from your mother's wallet to buy drags, only to end living on the streets on a card box asking for money. All of them looked at Ito with a raised eyebrow. The blue-haired boy blushed a little. That sounds pretty specific, bro, Kirishima said, but I feel that I've seen something like that before. Yeah, isn't the plot of that soap opera that was about to air a few weeks ago? Ishido asked. It was a documentary about peer pressure and the devastating effects of the drags. Ida said, completely red. The group started laughing at their new friend and started to walk to their station making jokes and having fun. Kirishima, Ishido, and Ida were walking ahead of Izuku and Uraraka. Hey Deku, are you sure is all right if I call you that? Honestly, if you don't like it, I will call you Midoriya like before, Uraraka said in a hushed tone at him. I was being honest with you when I told you that I don't mind you calling me that. He scratched his cheek. And I like it when you say it because now it means something amazing. He turned his head to the side, missing the faint blush on Uraraka's face. The next day started with classes, normal classes, English and maths. Izuku could say that after yesterday with Aizawa he expected more hands-to-action classes, but he won't complain. After all, UA must have those classes for a reason. After lunch, class 1A was waiting excitedly for their next class, Basic Hero Training. I'm here walking through the door like a normal person. All Might voice boomed in the classroom and Izuku's eyes couldn't help but shine in excitement. So this is the class All Might will teach us? Amazing. I'm here to teach you basic hero training. Let's not waste time. We need to move to the battle center. But before that, All Might pointed a finger to the left wall of the classroom. Those are the costumes made by your request after being accepted. Metal briefcases appeared from the wall. Now go get changed and prepare yourselves. Then go to Battleground Beta. I'll be waiting for you there. A few minutes later. Start with the appearances is the right step, ladies and gentlemen. You already look as heroes. Izuku was the last one to step out of the tunnel, looking at the costumes of his classmates, already making notes in his mind about how they could add or remove something that helps with their quirks. Not like he would tell anybody that. They could take it the wrong way, maybe except for Kirishima, Ishido, Uraraka and Ida. Deku, you look so cool, Uraraka said, smiling widely at him. Izuku's costume was really simple, a green full-body suit that his mother made for him, a black utility belt, a back pouch with his weapons, his signature red sneakers, and a metal respirator mask. The more unique feature on his costume was a dark green short-sleeve haori with black flames decorating the edges. He decided to wear it when Fukusa's sensei showed him a picture of Minato. It was his way to pay respect to the man who gave him hope and his first sensei. Thank you, Uraraka, you look. Izuku blushed looking at the skin-tight costume Uraraka was wearing. Amazing. Thanks, but I should have been more specific about what I wanted. This costume is really tight. But her costume looks fine, right, Midoro? Kirishima suddenly whispered in his ear with a wide grin on his face. Better than fine, Izuku answered automatically and blushed heavily when he understood what he said. What I mean is, I meant that. Izuku stuttered while Kirishima laughed out loud and Uraraka blushed. What are we laughing at? Ishido asked, appearing beside Kirishima, who chocked wildly after being startled. Kirishima was telling me that he likes your costume, Ishido. He said that it highlights your skin and eyes. Izuku told her, still red in the face, taking the opportunity to get revenge on his friend. Ah, do you really think so, Kiri? Ishido asked with a happy smile. Yes, was the only thing the red-faced Kirishima could whisper. Let's start with the battle training, ladies and gentlemen. All Might shouted, saving everyone from their embarrassment. The class will be divided between villains and heroes, and there would be 2 vs 2 battles. There is no better than a real battle. To understand the basics. Suddenly All Might was buried in a lot of questions that he seemed determined to answer. After explaining how they would be graded, how they were not permitted to kill the enemy team, how they were not going to get expelled like in Aizawa's class, how they were going to make the teams, and affirming that Aoyama's cape looked amazing. All Might started to make the teams. A few minutes later, a screen showed the battles. Team A, Midoriya Izuku and Uraraka Ochako. Team B, Todoroki Shoto and Mizo Shoji. Team C, Yaoyorozu Momo and Mineta Minoru. Team D, Bakugo Katsuki and Ida Tenya. Team E, Aoyama Yuga and Ashido Mina. Team F, Sato Rikido and Kota Koji. Team G, Jiro Kyoka and Kaminari Denki. Team H, Azuitsu and Tokoyami Fumikichi. Team I, Ojiro Mashireo and Hagakure Toru. Team J, Kirishima Ijiro and Shiro Hanta. Izuku smiled at Uraraka, who raised her hand for a high five. After everyone was with their partner, All Might explained to them how the battles would be decided. Later Izuku was cursing his look again. Of course it would be my team versus Bakugo's. He turned to saw his opponents and saw Ida telling something to Bakugo, who wasn't listening. He was looking at Izuku with a wicked smile. Now Team D are the villains. Go prepare in the building. You have 5 minutes. Team A, use the time to plan your attack. Izuku walked to their designated spot with Uraraka and motioned to her to follow him. He walked around the building in silence, forming a plan. 2 minutes later, he turned to Uraraka, who was silently looking at him. You have a plan already? She asked, smiling softly. A few actually, but I don't know what plan should we follow. Izuku scratched the back of his head. There are 2 principal options. Either we use stealth to win this or we fight head-on. I would have said stealth is the best way to do this, but you seem to want to fight Bakugo, don't you? Izuku's eyes widened a little. After yesterday I've noticed the angry stares he sent your way and the cold ones you return. You both seem to have unfinished business. Izuku laughed a little. You sure are perceptive, don't you, Uraraka? She grinned at him. Maybe someday I will tell you about that, but now we have to decide what to do. We fight, Uraraka said with her fist closed. Sometimes you should take the obstacles head-on, and your history sounds like a fated battle between men. Izuku couldn't help but laugh. Okay, then I have 3 plans for a head-on fight. Let me explain them to you. Begin! All Might shouted. Uraraka and Izuku sprinted through the building, already heading for the upper floors where they knew the bomb would be. They were on the 3rd floor when a scream made them stop. "Du!" Bakugo appeared, turning around the corner, aiming a hand at them. Izuku grabbed Uraraka by the waist and jumped back, avoiding the explosion. Don't dodge, Udman, coward. Uraraka, take the path to our left, stick to the plan. Uraraka nodded at him and took off running. Your plan doesn't matter, I'll beat the sheet out of you and then I will beat that round face to the ground. Your plans don't matter. Izuku didn't respond, just took a stance. Bakugo launched himself with an explosion, aiming a right hook straight to Izuku's face that dodged it to his left and responded with a knee to the stomach of Bakugo. Bakugo staggered a little but regained his footing, then threw a barrage of open-handed strikes. Izuku used the momentum of Bakugo's attacks to divert the hits, avoiding the chance of Bakugo making an explosion right on his face, and used the openings Bakugo had to deliver his own hits. Bakugo's anger was rising at not being capable of connecting an attack, and his strikes were getting wilder, using his explosions to backspin and deliver a fast and powerful elbow hit. Izuku crouched, avoiding the attack, and made some seals with his hands, water-style, wave search. He spits from his mouth a powerful jet of water that blasted Bakugo to the other end of the corridor they were fighting of. Did you just spit on me, yesterday? Bakugo coughed while holding his stomach. You liar. You always had a quirk and hide it from me. Do you think you're better than me? Bakugo used his explosions to close the distance between Izuku and him. Izuku took 2 kunai from his back pouch and threw them at Bakugo, who barely dodged them. When Bakugo got close enough to Izuku, he let a powerful explosion roar from his right hand, but Izuku wasn't there anymore. Bakugo's eyes widened and he started looking around for Izuku, who was recovering his knife from the wall behind him. How the F did you do that? Bakugo screamed in rage. You know what, whatever your parlor tricks don't matter. I was planning on beating you just enough for them to stop the exercise, but it seems that I need to make you remember your place. He aimed his left hand at Izuku. Do you remember how my quirk works, right? Of course you remember, shitty nerd, but let me remind you. The sweat from my palms is like nitroglycerin. And these gauntlets allow me to store said sweat on them. He grinned wickedly and Izuku's eyes widened. Young Bakugo, don't use that attack on a closed place like that. It could be dangerous for young Midoriya. All Might's voice boomed on their ears. Don't worry, it would only kill him if he doesn't dodge, Bakugo said maniacally and grabbed the pin on his gauntlet. Izuku talked for the first time since the battle begun. I was really hoping you were different, but it seems that I was just dreaming. He took another kunai from his pouch and held them in front of him, making a seal. Bakugo's eyes narrowed at what Izuku said. He seemed to doubt for a second, but he pulled the pin anyway. A massive explosion ignited from the gauntlet directly at Izuku, who didn't move. Dodge, young Midoriya! All Might shouted, seeing the mortal explosion approaching Izuku. Hiraishin! Teleportation barrier. A star made of kanji appeared in front of Izuku, and the explosion was warped through it to the other kunai he threw moments before. The kunai that was stuck on the next building exploded in a fiery explosion. What the F dash? Bakugo growled. He couldn't believe what his eyes were seeing. It doesn't matter, let's see if you can do your circus trick again. Now he aimed his right hand and was about to grab the pin, but Izuku was already on the offensive, throwing a kunai that pierced his gauntlet. What dash? Bakugo saw his sweat pouring from the gauntlet and turned to sneer at Izuku, who already threw 2 shurikens at him. That won't hit me. The throw wasn't even close. Bakugo's thoughts stopped when he saw how both shurikens were closing against each other and the direction. But it was too late. The shurikens clashed against each other right on top of Bakugo, pouring sweat, creating a spark and igniting it. The explosion shook the building and sent Bakugo through various walls on his left. What the F dash? Bakugo coughed a little blood and with his legs shaking tried to get up when he heard Izuku at his side. Earth style, rock restraining, from the ground below him what seemed rock chains grabbed him by the neck, wrists, waist and legs. Deku, as soon as I break out from here I will kill you. Bakugo trashed wildly, trying to break from his restrainings when he felt something touch his head and All Might voice boomed. Bakugo Katsuki has been captured. Bakugo's expression became one of horror when he heard that, and he crossed his eyes to notice the capture tape on his forehead. I was hoping you were different, that after all these years you changed and became a better person, but I see that I was hoping too much from you. You are the same prideful and violent child from 9 years ago, and honestly is kinda sad. Izuku had a sad look on his face. You need to grow up, Bakugo. If you don't acknowledge that there are better people than you will never improve. After saying that, Izuku disappeared in a green flash. Bakugo was left there feeling something he hasn't felt before in his life, crushing defeat. He felt completely defeated, and above all, he was completely outclassed by someone he considered nothing, someone that he deemed as the weakest of the weak. Bakugo's pride shattered, and for the first time in a long time, his eyes watered. Meanwhile, with Uraraka and Ida a minute before. What was that? Ida asked, feeling the tremors on the building. It is a fated battle between men, Ochako said while holding herself against a pillar. Ida coughed on his hand and returned to his villainous acting. Well, as I said before, hero, I won't let you close to the bomb. You can't avoid the destruction my nefarious plans will bring to the world, Ida said in his villainous tone. Uraraka tried her hardest to not laugh out loud. Your villainous accent today, Ida, will stop you, Uraraka said, trying to enter in character. You're by yourself, hero, you'll never beat me. Are you sure about that? Izuku asked out of nowhere, startling Uraraka and Ida. Where do you come from? I watched Uraraka, and she doesn't have any of your knives. I know that you use those to teleport, Ida said with an accusing finger pointed at them. Wow, you are observant, Ida. You understood how I use Hiraishin after seeing it once. He showed him the kunai he had on his hand and unrolled the cloth it has on the handle. Under the first layer of cloth was another one that had the kanjis for hope. You see, what I use for that technique is not the kunai, is this seal. I can put it on any surface and it will work for me. Uraraka showed Ida the back of her right hand. She has the kanjis there. Deku told me how his teleportation ability worked, and we developed a plan preventing that you would know about his knives and the possibility that you would disarm me and throw the knife away, Uraraka said happily. Uraraka having a tattoo is against the school rules. Both teens couldn't help but sweat drop at the priorities of Ida. I can remove it later, but we're running out of time, so. Sorry, Ida, Izuku said while throwing 4 kunai at Ida, who couldn't react in time. 3 kunai bounced off Ida's armor and the last one buried itself on the wall behind the bomb. Izuku put a hand on Uraraka and 2 seconds later she was teleported to the kunai on the wall and touched the bomb. Hero team wins. All Might shouted and Ida turned to see Uraraka then at Izuku a few times. What just happened? Ida shouted confused. After receiving the MVP title by Yaoyorozu and All Might, Izuku watched the rest of the fights of his classmates and made a lot of mental notes about their quirks. Classes ended after the last fight and after changing he was walking out of school with his friends. What do you mean you have a tattoo too, Kirishima? Izuku couldn't help but laugh at Ida, who was a tattoo away from having a seizure. Yeah, Midoribro is a protective friend and he said that in case I run into trouble he would be by my side in a flash, Kirishima said, unbuttoning his blazer and shirt to show his shoulder where Izuku's seal was. Even Ishido has one. Yup, after Izuku talked with me about his quirk. And how it worked, I was on board to have a green powerhouse just a second away in case of emergency. Mina said, showing her ankle with the kanjis on it and sweating bullets at almost spill Izuku's secret, who just sighed at his friends. I can erase the mark right now if you want, Uraraka, Izuku said smiling. Uraraka blushed a little and shook her head. You know, having a friend a flash away sounds amazing, she said shyly, and Izuku blushed too hearing that. Uraraka, you shouldn't keep the tattoo, is against the rules. Izuku was sure that Ida's mouth was foaming white. Actually, Ida, it isn't, because as part of my abilities, is the same as someone who has tattoos as a direct part of their quirk, Izuku said with a raised finger. Suddenly his face became mischievous and Ida felt a chill run through his spine. You know, Ida, I consider you my friend and I would be really at peace if you too have my help a flash away, Izuku said while raising his hands in a threatening manner. Midoriya stops that behavior in this instant. Izuku walked slowly at him. Midoriya, do not come near me. I'm warning you. My mother won't let me enter the house. Midoriya, stop. Ida was chopping with his hands wildly when another voice saved him. Death! A growl made Izuku turn around to see Bakugo looking at him with narrowed eyes and clenched teeth. Bakugo, Izuku said seriously. Bakugo seemed to struggle to say what he had on his mind. He was trembling. I accept that you win this time. Bakugo's accepting a defeat made Izuku raise an eyebrow. But don't get accustomed to that. I will get better and I'll be the #1 hero. Izuku just nodded, not knowing that to say, and I'm kinda glad that you developed a quirk because that means I won't feel bad crushing you. Bakugo walked past him, leaving Izuku's group confused. What he was talking about, Midoribro? Kirishima asked, looking at the retreating figure of Bakugo. Honestly, I don't know, but he accepted his defeat. Maybe I was wrong and he has grown up since I left. His friends shrugged and started walking. Suddenly Izuku noticed something. Why is Ida walking that far from us? Because, if you even think about tattooing me, being this far means I'll have enough time to run away. Ida shouted a few meters in front of them. The group fell into a fit of laughter and Izuku couldn't help but be grateful that things seemed to be fine. Chapter 10. Izuku, Uraraka, and Ida were walking to the cafeteria with Izuku explaining to Ida why he didn't want the class president position while Uraraka just laughed at her friend complaints. I told you, Ida, I didn't want to be president. I voted for you because you seemed really eager to take the position. Izuku whined. And I thank you for your vote of confidence, but you were chosen in democratic elections. You should be proud of being the representative of Class 1A. Ida said, chopping the air with his arms. Is not that I'm not happy that you voted for me, is only that it is a lot of responsibility, Izuku said, scratching the back of his head. I won't lie, it would be a lot of responsibility, but you have us, your friends, if you ever need help, Ida said, and Uraraka nodded at him. Thanks, guys, I appreciate it a lot. Izuku was really happy with his new friends. Kirishima and Ishido were the only ones he had before. To be able to just connect with people as quickly as with Uraraka and Ida, it was a welcome change. His train of thought was cut by said girl. Is that a tiny frog? She asked curiously, and Izuku's eyes widened in panic. He leaped back and pulled a kunai out of nowhere. Where? Where is it? Izuku screamed with his eyes wide as plates. Midoriya. What is going on? Is something wrong? Ida asked, startled. Deku, what are you doing? Uraraka felt scared at the sudden panic of his friend. Where do you see it, Uraraka? It was looking through the window, isn't it? Izuku opened one of the windows of the aisle and poked half of his body out looking for his enemy. What is Midoribro doing? Kirishima said, joining his friends with Ishido at his side. Midoriya is on drags. I can almost smell the weed he smoked. Ida said, pulling his hair. Kirishima and Ishido just raised an eyebrow and turned at Uraraka at the same time. We honestly don't know we were talking, and then I saw a tiny frog outside the window dash. Uraraka was interrupted by a very agitated Kirishima. Was the small frog purple? Kirishima started to look around, frightened. Well, yeah, it was a tiny purple frog. Midoribro, that bugger is back. Don't let him escape. Kirishima suddenly stood beside Izuku with his body poking out of the window. I don't understand what is happening, Uraraka said softly while scratching the back of her head. Ishido just started laughing happily. Don't mind them, is just Gamabu, a tiny frog that Midori-sensei sends sometimes to watch over him. Uraraka and Ida looked puzzled, but the boy decided to ask. Midoriya-sensei sends a frog to watch over him? Ishido nodded, still laughing. And that has them on edge. Why? Well, Gamabu likes to spit water at them. First it was just Midori, but for some reason he started targeting Kiri too. It was really funny in middle school when we met for lunch and both were drenched and defeated. Ishido kept giggling and Uraraka joined her, imagining the scene. Should we help them? Ida asked again. Nah, let them try. Let's get going to the cafeteria, they will catch up with us later. I see it, Midoribro is on that bush. Catch him. Yes. Izuku and Kirishima jumped through the window with their prey on sight when suddenly both screamed, remembering that they were on the 4th floor. Are you sure they're going to be all right? Uraraka said, barely containing her giggles. They'll be just fine, they'll just be a little wet when they catch us. The trio walked to the cafeteria with the screams of Izuku and Kirishima fading in the distance. As Ishido said, both teens catch up with them when they were about to sit down to eat, both with their faces and hair drenched in water. So, do you catch it? Uraraka said, giggling. Nope, was all that Izuku said, sitting down. I swear that bugger is getting faster every time it appears. Kirishima whined and his friends laughed at their defeated friends. Izuku noticed the Hiration mark on the back of the hand of Uraraka. Uraraka, I have something for you. The girl tilted her head in confusion at first, then her eyes widened and she blushed heavily when Midoriya pulled out of his pocket a small green box. Deku, what are you doing? This is so sudden. We're so young. Midoriya raised an eyebrow at Uraraka, who was covering her face with her hands. Oh my god, Midori, you're so bold. Ishido squealed in happiness. Izuku turned at her with confusion written all over his face. Kirishima put an arm over his shoulder in a proud hug. Midoribro, you're the manliest man in the world. I'm so proud. I get to be your best man, you have no choice on that. Izuku's eyes widened, finally catching at what his friends were thinking. Midoriya, I must congratulate you for this big step in your life. Even if I believe is too soon, I'm happy for you. I just hope this doesn't interfere with your grades. Ida said, nodding. Wait guys, is not what you're thinking. Tell them, Uraraka, we're not like that. The poor girl was being held from floating around by Mina. Ugh, come just open the box please. Izuku begged, and after a few moments, Uraraka was seated again, calmer but still very red on the face. She opened the small box and inside it was a folded pink fingerless glove. She turned at Izuku with a questioning gaze. Is for your right hand. I know you said you want to keep my Hiration seal, but as Ida said yesterday it looks like a tattoo, so I thought I would get you something to keep it hidden. Of course, you can say no. But I would like to keep the secret of my ability hidden for a little while, Izuku said, scratching the back of his head nervously. Why do you want to keep your abilities hidden, Deku? Uraraka said while admiring her present. A few reasons actually, but the two most important reasons are that I want to keep the chance of a surprise attack, and it seems pretentious that my seal is the word hope. He whispered the last part and only Uraraka heard him. Before she could ask about that, Ishido entered the conversation. Wait, why didn't you just erase that mark and put it in another place more hidden? Ishido asked. I don't think my heart is ready for that, Izuku whispered lowly. Ishido was about to say something when the flustered Uraraka decided to change the subject quickly. I love it, Deku. She has the glove on her hand now. It was a soft pink and on the back of it had a metal plate. I look cool, don't I? Uraraka said, showing her new glove, striking a pose. Yes, you do. Izuku said softly, smiling at her. The rest of the lunch was passing in peace when suddenly the school alarms went off. Security breach level 3. Students leave the installations as soon as possible. What does security breach level 3 means? Ida said, shouting over the loud alarm. It means that someone infiltrated in the school, a student to his right answered. Izuku was already running to the window to check about the possible danger. The rest of his friends were caught in a mob of people that were trying to get out of the building in panic. Izuku was slammed against the window by the said mob, but his eyes never stopped looking for danger. A few moments later, he saw that the press was the ones to breach into the school. He calmed a bit and tried to turn around to tell everybody about it, but he was trapped tightly against the window by the mob. He saw the panic in everyone's faces and he couldn't help but get angry. He pulled out a kunai from his back pouch somehow, and after a little struggle, he managed to throw it to the ceiling. He appeared standing on the ceiling and only got angrier looking at the students tramping over each other. He took a deep breath and screamed, "Everybody calm down. It's just the press that broke into the school. Stop this madness right now." His shout seemed to reach everyone because everybody stopped in their tracks and turned to look at him on the ceiling. "You're supposed to be the heroes of the future. Act like it," he growled and dropped over a table. A few moments later, everyone left the cafeteria in a more orderly manner and Izuku joined his friends. "Amazing, Midoriya. That's the reason you were chosen as the class representative," Ida said proudly. "You were amazing, Deku. Like a real hero. Handling a panic situation," Uraraka said happily. "And now you have more experience than me calming the masses. You're leaving me behind, Midoriya bro," Kirishima said with a false shame on his face and an arm on Izuku's shoulder. "I honestly didn't expect you shouting like that, Midori. You're always so calm about everything," Ashido said, patting the falsely ashamed Kirishima on the shoulder. "Ah, sorry about that, but when I saw everyone just panicking and not caring for the rest, I got mad." Izuku scratched the back of his head. Suddenly the speakers of the cafeteria came on again. "Midoriya, Izuku, would you please report on the entrance of the school as soon as possible? Principal Nizu is asking for your assistance." That made Izuku and his friends' eyes widen in shock. "I need to go, guys. I'll see you in our next class." Izuku took off, running out of the cafeteria to the entrance of the school, leaving behind a very puzzled group of friends. Reaching the entrance of the school, Izuku saw a group of teachers already there. Some of them looked at him confused, trying to understand the reason why Nizu called a student for. Even All Might looked at him surprised for being called. "Midoriya, I'm glad you arrived so fast." Nizu chirped happily. "We require of your quirk knowledge here. It seems that the ones that broke in used a quirk to destroy the gate. And it seems that it was a powerful 1-inch. Izuku nodded and approached the destroyed gate, getting more questioning looks from the teachers except for Present Mike, who sent him a thumbs up, and Eraserhead, who just nodded at him. Izuku got close to the door and started to watch for any information he could gather. It wasn't an explosion. The gate is at least 15 centimeters wide of solid metal. The power an explosion should have to blow it to pieces would have destroyed the street too at least, so that rules that out. Maybe it was acid? No, the acid would have left marks and melted chunks on what was left of the door. Izuku looked around the gate frame, and on a bottom corner he saw something. Is that dust? No, is metallic dust, but there is no oxidation in it. Izuku's eyes widened. He walked to the rest of the gate and pinched one of the edges. It crumbled on his fingers. He felt a chill run down his spine and turned to the teachers who were looking at him with astonished faces. "I murmured right?" Izuku asked, embarrassed. "Yes, you did, Midoriya, but it seems that you have a hypothesis." Izuku nodded and showed them the dust he just found. "This is metallic dust from the door. It doesn't have oxide on it, so is not a rusting quirk. That means that whatever did this to the gate just disintegrated. I believe that the person who did this has a quirk that let him rot, putrefy, or decay the matter. How it works I couldn't tell, but I didn't saw any other component anywhere, or a point on where the decaying started. So the person can either decay something with his sight," everybody shivered at the possibility, "or needs to have contact with the objective. Both options are terrifying, Midoriya." The seriousness in Nizu's voice put him a little on edge. "Thank you for your help, Midoriya. We'll check if anyone with a quirk with those characteristics is on the police database. Go to your classes and don't tell your classmates about your hypothesis. We don't want to spread the panic. Izuku nodded at Nizu and bowed before leaving. Do you think he is right? Midnight asked concerned. Midoriya quirk analysis is the reason I took him as my pupil. If he says that someone with a quirk that can rot matter did this, I believe him. Nizu still serious. I'll make some calls. We need to get to the bottom of this. All of you keep your guards up. We don't know who or the reason for this. Let's not get caught with our guards down. All the teachers nodded and left to their activities. What do you think, Toshinori? Nizu asked the only teacher that stood there. Some dumb criminal trying to mess with us. Nizu, I'm more impressed by Midoriya's skills. The kid analysis is kind of terrifying. Nizu couldn't help but chuckle a bit. I'm just glad he is on our side. That brain on the villain's side would make our job more dangerous. The next day, Izuku and company were riding a bus heading to their rescue training. He was still thinking about yesterday's situation. He didn't like to lie to his friends, but it was necessary. When they asked about what happened, he told them that Nizu asked for his assistance with his quirk analyzing skills, but told them he didn't found anything. Thankfully, his friend's attention was caught by the mention of his analyzing skills, so the conversation turned quickly into Izuku telling them a few ideas he had. For them, he was brought out of his mind when someone called him from his left. Midoriya-chan, I always say what I think. Karo. Izuku turned to his left and saw the black eyes of his classmate looking directly into his soul. Now that he saw her face closely, he understood why he thought that Uraraka was talking with a frog on the quirk apprehension test. Her face weirdly reminded him about Fukusa-sensei or the toads on MT Myobokuzan. Azui, sorry I was lost in thought. Do you need something? Call me Tsuyu or Tsu-chan. Izuku chuckled a little but nodded. I've been meaning to ask. Your quirk is weird. How you said you call it? Energy manipulation too. Izuku said her name with a little blush while scratching his cheek, a little nervous. Azui smiled at him. Energy manipulation, that doesn't explain all the things we saw you doing in the battle exercise. Izuku knew that sooner or later all his classmates would like an explanation for his abilities, so he didn't hesitate to tell her the story he's been using for a while. After all, he wasn't lying beyond the fact that he didn't have a quirk. Well, you see, my quirk. He frowned a little. He didn't like calling his chakra and techniques a quirk. Let me manipulate and mold the energy in my body into different techniques. Like the water blast I used on the practice battle, I molded my energy with the hydrogen around me and used my control to use it like a water cannon. Azui looked at him with those big soul-searching black eyes and nodded. Your quirk seems complicated, but what are those hand gestures you do before using any of your techniques, Karo? Izuku was starting to sweat a little. She croaks too? I call them seals. He made 2 seals with his hands for them to see. I use them to focus on the steps I have to take for my technique. You'll be an amazing hero, Midoriya-chan. Karo. Tsuyu smiled at him. Warmly, Izuku grinned at her and decided that he could ask questions too. Tsuyu, I have a question. Do the words Fukusa, Myobokuzan? He couldn't help but narrow his eyes at the last name. Or Gamabu means anything to you? From the corner of his eye, he saw Kirishima stiffen, understanding why Izuku was asking her that. I haven't heard those names before, Midoriya-chan, Tsuyu said, tilting her head. Izuku was freaking out a little. I can't read her expressions. But maybe she's not a spy, or is she? I need to keep her under vigilance. I can't lower my defenses. Maybe she is affiliated with Gamabu. I see. Thank you, Tsu. Izuku turned slightly to Kirishima and shook his head. The red-haired boy seemed to calm after that and continued their conversation. Yeah, and his abilities are really flashy. He'll catch the eyes of the public as soon as he starts his hero career. I just have my hardening. It let me get the job done, but it will be difficult to get the attention of the public, Kirishima said, activating his quirk. I've told you before, Kirishima, you'll be an amazing hero and protector. You don't need to worry about flashiness. At the end of the day, people will recognize you by your feats, not your quirk. Kirishima blushed at the words of Izuku. He sometimes forgets how Midoriya is always cheering for him. My quirk is the perfect combination between power and flashiness, Aoyama said, joining the conversation. Yeah, but your quirk also gives you stomach issues, isn't it? Ashido's words made Aoyama's face fell a little. Sorry for that, Aoyama, and thanks, Midoriya bro, but you have to admit that having a flashy quirk like yours, Bakugo's, or Todoroki's would help in the attention department. Izuku just chuckled and shook his head. Yeah, but with how loud and angry Bakugo is, he will never be popular, Karo. Izuku's eyes widened when Azui said that without blinking. What did you said, frog face? You wanna fight? Bakugo shouted from the back of the bus. See what I'm talking about, Karo? Izuku turned his head to the side to hide his giggling. What are you laughing at, Deku? Everybody shut up, we already arrived. Aizawa's voice cut all their talk. After getting out of the bus, all of them were surprised at the sight. Welcome to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or USJ for short. A person in a spacesuit welcomed them. It's the Space Hero 13. All the students shouted in glee. Uraraka was practically vibrating with excitement at looking at her favorite hero. Welcome students, here you'll train to deal with natural disasters and other kinds of situations in a hero's life. You'll need to learn all the ways to rescue people in any kind of circumstance. The space hero said happily. 13, where is All Might? Aizawa asked. 13 explained that he was tired of hero work, raising 3 fingers. Aizawa just grunted. Suddenly Aizawa's instincts kicked in and he turned to see a black portal opening in the middle of the square. Everybody, stay together and here, 13 protect the students. Izuku and his classmates looked at the massive portal below them. What is that? Have the test started? Kirishima asked. Izuku for his part couldn't take his eyes off all the people entering the building through the portal. It can't be. Nobody move, those are not part of any test. Those are villains. Aizawa put his goggles on and prepared to battle.